Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about What If Deku Had a Bloody Bond Part 2. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see Part 3, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story, 𝗵𝗃𝗲, Fan 1 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Miruko hated watching fights. Sure, for most people watching a fight was about the thrill of watching two people try to tear each other apart, but for the rabbit hero it was about more than that. She wanted to F. In all her life she had never had 𝐸𝐶 for the simple reason that absolutely no one had any 𝐸𝐶 appeal to her. She consulted a doctor and was told that her quirk was at fault. Apparently, many quirks that were based on animals had an impact on 𝐸𝐶 drive. This was something that she had already known due to her seemingly endless horniness and need to 𝗵𝗃𝗏 while going through PBRY, and to a lesser degree when she got older, not that she was that far out of PBRY anyway at the age of 19. This issue was that not only did her quirk give her a uncontrollable 𝐸𝐶 drive, but it also made it so she could only get off while at least a little fear. She would often dream about some strong, powerful guy towering over her and F her within an inch of her life. For as long as she could remember, she would come to the UA Sports Festival to see if anyone could help her. Logic dictated that the strongest age-appropriate people fighting each other would at least let her find someone who would agree to being F-buddies at the very least, maybe something else, but for the life of her she couldn't describe her ideal relationship. She had only stopped coming because every year she would get a private viewing booth and get half turned on only for the fighters to all be a bunch of weaklings. So how was she supposed to be afraid of what one of them could do to her? The only reason she even went this year was because All Might said she wouldn't regret it. All Might knew of her problem and had taken it upon himself to find someone who could make her happy, so when she heard rumors that he had named a successor that would be attending UA, and then he told her to watch the festival, she was getting her hopes up pretty high. She had planned to show up after the cavalry battle and race had already concluded because she didn't give a SHT about those anyway, but a villain attack made it so she missed the first rounds of the fights as well, and there was currently a tiebreaker being decided, so Rumi had decided that her private booth could wait while she went to the bathroom, not wanting to run the risk of missing the actual fights. She glanced at a display that showed the current brackets with pictures for reference. Apparently, the brackets for the quarterfinals were Izuku Midoriya versus the winner of the tiebreaker, 𝐈𝐵 Shizuki versus Tenya Ida, Shoto Todoroki versus Mina Ishido, 𝗵𝗃𝗏 Tokoyami versus Katsuki Bakugo. When she found the bathroom, it was in use, so she figured that since she had a bit of time to kill, she'd just wait. She pulled out her phone and went to begin mindlessly scrolling through different apps when her sensitive ears picked up on something in the bathroom. 𝗲𝗏𝗔𝗍, I should have just made a device to counter dark shadow. A girl said from the inside of the bathroom. It's okay, pup, you're still my good little puppy, aren't you? I'm very proud of you and all you girls will be rewarded later. A boy said back. Now that had Rumi's attention. The idea of that sort of relationship wasn't one she had never heard of before, but she had never been around when someone was doing it and had no idea how it actually worked. Even Tsu and Mina. They like different things than Kyoka and I, and Himiko is somewhere in between. The pup asked her 𝗓𝗏. Then, how many girls does this guy have? And wasn't Mina that pink girl who is going to the next round? Rumi thought, her phone completely forgotten. Well, Mina is just masochistic, and since Tsu's quirk makes her like a frog, and frogs are naturally prey, she likes it when I hunt her down to F her. The guy explained as if talking about the weather. Holy SHT, that's the ticket right there. Rumi thought. If this pans out the way I hope it does and I finally meet a guy who is stronger than me, I'm going to have to get him to hunt me like that guy is talking about. Izuku Midoriya, Ijiro Kirishima, please report to your starting positions, your match is beginning now. Present Mike said over the loudspeakers. Rumi realized that she'd just have to go to the bathroom between matches, not that it was a real concern anyway, and took off to her private booth. As always, the booth was about 5 by 10 feet, upholstered in red velvet, and complete with a couple of seats and a one-way glass window. The two fighters stood opposite each other and Rumi began to try to predict the winner. Surprisingly, she couldn't get anything off of Izuku's body language. He stood casually as if he was waiting in line at the grocery store, not in the middle of an important fight, so the young rabbit hero turned her attention to his build. He was muscular like a fighter, which was a good sign, and stood at about 6 foot tall. Although she got very little from looking at the green-haired fighter, one glance at the other one was all she needed to know what the results would be. The redhead was terrified, literally shaking in his boots as he stared with wide eyes at his opponent. Nobody was that afraid of someone without good reason. Well, the fight has been going for 30 seconds, but neither one has made a move. Many don't know this, but Izuku Midoriya is the student who single-handedly stopped the villain attack at the facility. What do you mean I wasn't supposed to talk about that? The kid's a beast. Present Mike said over the loudspeakers to Aizawa. Rumi was a bit shocked at that. Everyone had heard of the USJ event, how a student beat the SHT out of a biological killing machine and soloed the entire League of Villains until they ran away with their tails between their legs. Suddenly, there was a flash of green and Izuku seemed to teleport to the other guy and sent him flying through the air, slamming him into the barricades. Izuku Midoriya is the winner by knockout. Not the most exciting fight, but definitely an amazing display of power, as expected of the next symbol of peace. What do you mean I wasn't supposed to say that? What am I allowed to say about him? Next you are going to say I can't include the information about his 𝐻𝗲𝗵𝗲. I'm still on the air, aren't I? Present Mike said, sending most of the arena into a stunned silence. Rumi thought back to the bathroom, realizing that there was a high chance that they were the same guy and was surprised when she rubbed her thighs together in 𝐼𝐧𝐭𝐷. The guy was actually turning her on. My apologies for my dim-witted co-announcer. I would like to remind everyone that what Midoriya does in his free time is his business and no one else's. I would also like to remind villains what, allegedly, happened last time a villain bothered his alleged 𝐻𝗲𝗵𝗲. As a witness to the event, I would hypothetically advise all villains to weigh their power against this young man carefully before taking any actions that may affect him. Thank you. Would Tenya Ida and Ibara Shiozaki please report to their positions? Your fight will begin soon. Aizawa said, trying to defuse the crowd from what Present Mike said early on. The rabbit hero squirmed as she fantasized about the green-haired prodigy. Her hand unconsciously found its way to her beard. You are an absolute beast, aren't you? You could definitely put me in my DMN place, couldn't you, Midoriya? I bet you would chase me through a forest just to tackle me to the ground and FP&D me into the ground while I'm completely unable to stop you. She muttered, yeah, he'd even lay on top of you while you so you are trapped under his weight while his massive yummy pee-pee slams into you hard enough to leave an imprint in the dirt. A new voice said from the seat next to her. Luffy, who the hell are you? Rumi asked the trespasser. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt and a pair of green leggings with "Blood Slut" written in red. She had her blonde hair pulled up into twin buns and had a cute smile on her face that revealed her fangs, and her yellow eyes flashed with excitement. I'm Himiko Toga, Amistar Izuku's first pet. You have been selected by the Council of Pets because it is the shared belief of all pets involved that you have traits that we would like in our group. Do you have a moment to discuss the benefits of joining the 𝐻𝗲𝗵𝗲 of Izuku Midoriya? The girl asked in a formal voice. Did you just pitch me joining a 𝗲𝗲𝗵𝗲 like you were a telemarketer? Rumi asked the younger girl. Yup. Now, if you were to join the 𝗲𝗲𝗵𝗲 of pets, you would get the following benefits. Unlimited affection from 𝐒𝐻𝗲𝗧𝗏, sexual intercourse with extreme consideration to fetishes that you have. Friends. A new nickname. Section. Like, so much awesome, mind-breaking 𝐸 that will make you temporarily forget you own name. A new, custom collar, courtesy of Momo whenever she gets started on them, access to an exclusive group chat, and much, much more. Would you like to join an ever-growing group of pets? The slightly insane girl said. It wasn't her fault that she forgot to get breakfast that morning. Just to be clear, I won't end up like you, will I? No offense. Rumi said, not liking the insane glint in the girl's eyes. Oh, I doubt it. I just need some of MSDR's BLD and my quirk will stop making me crazy. The question you should be asking is how I plan on getting him to make you his cute little bunny rabbit. Don't worry about it, but if you are interested, tell me now. The girl said mysteriously, if I can actually be with that guy, and it is more than just a casual I am interested. Rumi said, figuring if she gets to the point where she needs to bail, she has enough strength and wealth to get out of it. Great. I look forward to watching him if you senseless. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said before pulling out her phone and texting, "It's go time," to the group chat. Now, we should enjoy the rest of the festival and catch Mr. Izuku afterwards. As far as he knows, I just came here for your autograph, so we'll make it seem like this was not planned at all. We can tell him the truth once he accepts you as his pet, at which point I will add you to the group chat. Now, I think the tall guy who is in Mr's class just won, so Mina is up. The girl said as she turned back to the window to watch her fellow pet fight. I guess so. Hopefully you plan on filling me in a bit more at some point. Rumi said as she watched the pink girl square up against the bicolored guy. On the field, ice began to creep towards the acidic girl as Todoroki spoke. My apologies, Ishido, but I must win this competition without my fire quirk to prove to my father I don't need him. I will be the best and I refuse to give him the 𝗧𝗵𝗲. If you just leave the arena with no trouble, I'll make you a whole bunch of soba when we get back to the dorms. Mina said with a bright smile. Very well. You are a formidable opponent, Ishido. Todoroki said with a bow before strolling out of the arena. Well, that was certainly anticlimactic. The final fight of the quarterfinals will be between 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 Tokoyami versus Katsuki Bakugo. Please report to your starting positions. Present Mike declared. Good ol' Mina just beat one of Mr's strongest classmates with promises of food. I bet she's going to get rewarded with some anal and spankings for getting this far. If she has to fight 𝗬𝗏 in the semifinals, she might just get off on him hitting her. It's not like he'd actually try to hurt her. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 cackled next to Rumi, who was just looking unimpressed. Bakugo and Tokoyami wasted no time attacking each other, but the bright flashes of Bakugo's explosions made short work of Dark Shadow, and soon Tokoyami was overwhelmed and knocked out of the arena. A much better fight than last time. The semifinals will be Izuku Midoriya versus Tenya Ida, and Mina Ishido versus Katsuki Bakugo. Present Mike declared, making 𝗵𝗃𝗀 stiffen. Oh, he better be gentle with her if he doesn't want to die. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said, knowing that there was no way Ida would beat her ever, and his wrath would be unending if Bakugo took it too far. Rumi was practically salivating as she looked at the pictures and videos that 𝗵𝗃𝗀 was showing her from her phone. Her favorite ones included Izuku's PP, which was bigger than she thought possible due to her lack of experience, and a huge mess of cum, which 𝗵𝗃𝗀 assured her tasted amazing. She also liked one video featuring Tsu getting chased around the room before she was picked up by the back of her neck and shoved against the wall so he could F the froggy into it, actually putting cracks in the wall with the force of it. Rumi was worried that the frog girl may have gotten hurt, but 𝗵𝗃𝗀 assured her that she was fine and that she even got to be Izuku's cockwarmer that night, which was apparently something they fought over. After a small intermission, Izuku and Ida were called to the arena. As soon as the match started, both disappeared in a blur as they tried to outclass each other's speed, a trail of green lightning indicating Izuku's ever-moving position and a small trail of fire representing Ida as he pushed his quirk to its absolute limits, not knowing that Izuku was hardly breaking 25%. Suddenly, they both stopped, with Ida standing out of breath, his hands on his knees as he tried to catch it. Hot DM in Ida. You really did well, I couldn't even catch you at half power. Izuku said, knowing better than to reveal his actual power to unknown people. Anyway, let's keep this moving along. Izuku said before rushing the fatigued heir and throwing him out of the arena. And with that show of sportsmanship, Izuku Midoriya moves on to the finals. Mina Ishido and Katsuki Bakugo, please report to your starting positions. Present Mike announced as per usual. Izuku helped the exhausted young man to his feet and gave him a friendly pat on the back while he helped him out of the arena. Izuku stopped next to the entering Mina and gave her a quick kiss for good luck before leaving, sending Bakugo a glare that he hoped would serve as a good warning. As soon as the battle began, Bakugo rushed the pink girl and prepared a small explosion with hopes of blinding her with the flash, but Mina threw acid through the air onto the bully's face, burning him slightly. 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁. He shouted as he swung wildly, wiping the acid out of his eyes. He let out a massive explosion in his anger which slammed the girl to the pavement hard. Now, had Bakugo been calm and without a temper, he would have realized that it was best to end the fight as to not upset Izuku more than necessary by not really hurting Mina. Unfortunately, Bakugo was angry, in pain and not thinking clearly. Die! He shouted as he slammed down on the prone girl with the strongest explosion he could muster, causing her scream of pain to echo throughout the entire field. The referee has declared that Mina Ishido cannot continue. The fight is over. Present mixed declaration was cut off as the bully attacked again before throwing the now unconscious girl out of the ring. The crowd was in uproar at the audacity of the butt, calling him a villain and booing him. Meanwhile, Himiko had tears in her eyes as she watched what had happened to her first female friend ever, and Rumi tried to console her. The crowd, however, fell silent as the winner of the last round came out and calmly lifted the girl into his arms. What was unnerving was precisely how calm he was. It was the eerie calm that one would expect of a reaper of souls rather than an angry boyfriend. The only expression on his face was his eyes, which were glowing a ferocious green as little bolts of lightning shot out of them. "See you in the next round, Bakugo," he said in a cold tone before gently carrying Mina to Recovery Girl's office. For the first time in his life, Present Mike had nothing to say. Linebreak Izuku had taken Mina to Recovery Girl's office and sat with her and the rest of his pets until the start of the finals. Izuku began walking out towards the entrance of the arena but was stopped by his homeroom teacher. "Midoriya, let me remind you that you are the next symbol of peace and you need to act like you are. The whole world is watching and you need to be careful of what you do with that sort of audience," Aizawa said before walking past him to return to the announcer's booth. "Are you saying that you don't think he deserves it?" Izuku asked the retreating figure. "I'm saying that if the world thinks he's a villain, they expect their hero to put a stop to him, not become the villain himself. The people need a hero," he called over his shoulder. Izuku meditated on the words for a moment before stepping out into the arena. And now, the moment we all have been eager for. We have the final fight of the sports festival. Izuku Midoriya will be fighting Katsuki Bakugo for first place. No matter what, everyone can agree that these two are absolute powerhouses. Even if one is a huge butt. Present Mike said, having recovered from watching the brutality that had taken place in the previous round. "Hey, shut the hell up. I'll effing crush your throat, then see how loud you talk," Bakugo shouted at the announcer. "Bakugo, please stop antagonizing the announcer. If you want to fight so badly, well," Izuku let a smile stretch across his face and began to spread the full power of One for All carefully around his body, causing green lightning to spark off him aggressively. "I am here. 𝗬𝗓𝗧𝗏. Bakugo shouted before unleashing the mother of all explosions on Izuku, seeming to hit him dead on and blinding people, only for them to see a severed arm a few feet from the now one-armed Izuku. "Ugh, is that his arm? I think I'm gonna be sick." Present Mike gagged as the successor of All Might just looked down at his new stump of a limb in interest. "Huh, you've gotten stronger since we last fought," Izuku said before flowing his inheritance into the stump and regenerating his lost limb in a few seconds. "I've been wondering about regenerating limbs, but it's not like I was willing to cut any off, so thank you, you were a good little assistant." "Why you dash?" Bakugo began but was cut off by the announcer. "Dude just grew an arm back. He didn't even flinch when he lost it, what a guy." Present Mike said, only angering the hothead more. "Nah, he just is incapable of putting out real damage," Izuku said with a smirk. "I'll kill you." Bakugo screamed at Izuku as he charged him. He unleashed explosion after explosion until he finally hit his limit and could do no more. The stadium watched as Izuku's body knit itself back together in silent awe. Then they noticed that his PP was partially hanging out. "Holy, I bet you could stand on that thing like a tripod. That's not even to mention how fat those nuts What do you mean I can't say that?" Present Mike said to the crowd in sheer awe of the Schmidt. This reference was for 𝗧𝗏𝗏, useless Deku. Bakugo said while throwing a right hook, which was promptly countered and slammed into the ground. "Always with that right hook. Anyway, I'm getting tired of fighting you, so let's finish up here," Izuku said before gently carrying the bully out of the arena. "Ointman, that has to hurt," not even giving him the decency of actually trying. Izuku Midoriya wins. Present Mike said in excitement. Izuku simply smiled, waved, and went to check on Mina. Line break. Izuku was sitting next to a now conscious Mina and holding her hand as he fussed over her like a mother hen. Do you want anything to drink? Are you hungry? Do you need more or less blankets? Are you in any pain anymore? Izuku asked, shooting off questions as Mina smiled in amusement at his cute antics. Not for something that would be appropriate in a hospital room, not really, less if you'll join me, not after you humiliated that, but I'm fine, I promise. It looked a lot worse than it was, but I definitely did not like that sort of pain. Even my masochistic butt doesn't like getting that much. Speaking of my masochistic butt, was I a good girl? Mina asked with sparkling eyes. I'm not spanking you for a bit. You are literally sitting in a hospital bed and covered in bandages. Izuku stated firmly, only for his heart to clench at her saddened look. So I'm being punished for that butt's behavior. You realize how unfair that is, right? Mina pointed out. How about this? When you get discharged and there isn't anything wrong with you, I'll slap your pink butt until you can't sit down for a week. Deal. Izuku compromised, honestly wondering how she could possibly think of Issei at a time like this. Deal. Now I just wish I had your quirk so I could be done healing already. Mina said cheerfully before sliding over on the bed to make room. Now, if you really want me to feel better, you'll come cuddle me. Izuku just chuckled and got into the bed next to his injured pet and wrapped his arms around her. If you want her to get better, you should run a bit of one for all through her. 1% would work wonders. A distinctly female voice echoed through Izuku's brain. What the F? Izuku said aloud in surprise. I always want a foo. Oh, that's not what you said. What's wrong? Mina asked from her position in his arms. I am 90% sure that I just heard a voice in my head. It told me to run a bit of one for all through you. Izuku said. Is that something you can do? Run your quirk through someone else like you do for your body? Mina asked, her curiosity sufficiently piqued. I've never tried it. I suppose I could attempt it though. Izuku said as he slid his hand up her shirt to rest on her midsection and ran 1% of one for all through his fingertips, green sparks flying off his hand and into her body. The effect on Mina was instantaneous. 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝗔𝗓𝗔. That feels so good. Is this how much power you have all the time? No. This is 1%. Do you feel better? Izuku asked her, smiling at her reaction. If I say yes, are you going to stop? Oh, is he? What would happen if you fingered me while doing this? Mina with an agito expression and drool at the corners of her mouth. I'll have to stop. It's kinda hard to keep it at 1% and I'm not sure if you could handle any more. Izuku said, cutting off the power he was channeling into her. I guess so, but you'll do it again for your bratty little alien, right? Mina asked him, burrowing into his warm chest despite the fact that she was now completely healed thanks to his quirk. Sure. Shouldn't we leave now that you are better? Izuku asked as she wrapped her slim arms around his torso. Nope. I don't get you all to myself that often, so let me enjoy this. Then, since you apparently can speed up my healing, you have a promise to keep when we get back to Momo's room, sir? Mina said with a sultry look. I will never understand 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗵𝗲. Izuku sighed before planting a kiss on forehead. Go to sleep, pet, you've had a long day. Line break. Izuku was going to go find Himiko because apparently she decided to stalk Mirko, and ran into Momo, Kyoka and Tsu on the way. Hey 𝗵𝗲𝗧𝗵𝗲. How's Mina? Tsu said, not caring about any possible audience. Hi cuties, good as new and I'll explain how later. What are you girls up to? Izuku asked as Kyoka immediately latched onto him. In the week since he got her, he had found out that she was extremely clingy, wanting some form of physical contact with him at all times when she could. He usually let her ride around on his back, but she preferred to be carried by the young hero. He was still yet to actually have SEC with her, but was planning to soon. We were going to go see the American exchange student in 1B, how about you? Momo asked, adding the last part shyly and much quieter. You three are too DMing cute. I think Himiko is bothering Mirko and she isn't exactly famous for her patience. Izuku said, completely oblivious to the situation. Oh, yeah. You should definitely go deal with that, 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽 said, letting go of him, and also alerting him to something being strange. Kitten, be a good girl and tell me what's going on. You never are that willing to let go of me. Izuku inquired, stepping close to the rocker girl to make her feel smaller. Not telling. It's a surprise, 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽 said, suppressing her longing to be a good girl, and no doubt be rewarded, for doing as she was told. Come on, kitten. Tell me and you can sit on my lap, and I'll kiss all over your neck while we listen to your favorite songs. Izuku said, knowing if that didn't get her, nothing would. Really? You promise? 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽 asked, her resolve crumbling. Of course. I promise that if you tell me right now like a good little kitty, I'll give you that as a reward, Izuku said with a gentle smile for his pet as he patted her head. Okay. We were going to scout out a 1B girl as a potential pet. She has an animal-based quirk and her first language is English. Himiko said you were fluent, so we thought she'd make a good pet, 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽 admitted, looking down. I see, Izuku said before holding her chin and tilting her head up to look at him. You're such a good girl, thank you for telling me, he said before planting a kiss on the shy girl's soft lips. You are not angry? Momo asked, also looking like a kid who was caught stealing candy. No. I know you girls are just trying to make me happy, even if I already am. I realized that I had no control over the amount of pets I end up with when I found out that you three liked me, Izuku assured them, pulling the three girls into his arms. But back off on the American girl for now, though. I still have a cute little kitten to F before I'm going after other girls. Okay, 𝗵𝗃. We'll go get Mina and go back to the dorms while you work. I'll get my reward soon, right? 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽 asked, back to being reluctant to let go of her. Well, I promised Mina a lot of spankings, but I'll gladly give you your reward when I'm done, Izuku said, kissing the girl on her forehead to seal his promise. Line break. Izuku went looking for Himiko, but was found by the blonde before he found her. 𝗵𝗃. Mina's okay, right? She isn't hurt, Himiko asked as she ran at Izuku with a certain rabbit hero right behind her. She's fine. I figured out how to heal with my quirk and she was my test dummy. What have you been up to? Izuku said before noticing Rumi. Holy All Might. Mirko, I'm a huge fan, can I have your autograph? He said, producing a notebook out of thin air and holding a pen out. Yeah, sure thing, Rumi said, not having expected her future lover to be a fanboy. He was cute, like a puppy. Later, she would realize how wrong that comparison was. She looked down at a very detailed sketch of her as well as a page of analysis of her quirk and possible weaknesses. Quite a book you have there. I guess you watch me a lot, she teased. Rumi watched as his expression went from star-stuck to focused in an instant. His eyes flicked around, tracing her form and analyzing her face before doing the same to Himiko. You've been a naughty girl, Himiko. Let me guess, you were going after Mirko while the others went to scout the 1B girls. And judging by the fact that she has a slight blush and her nose is twitching, combined with the fact that she is following you and you have a thing for muscles and watching me F other girls, let me guess what happened. You girls have been planning to stalk Mirko on my behalf ever since my little froggy mentioned it on the group chat. You knew I'd fight and I'd get her attention, at which point you would make your move, and then she agreed to go along with a plan to make it seem like my idea. Sound about right? The greenette said with a smirk. Rumi turned to a blushing Himiko and said, I thought you said he was dense. Yeah, but he also has crazy good analysis skills. I should have mentioned that, Himiko said meekly, a little disappointed that she was found out so easily. So, Mirko, why don't you tell me your version of events? He said to the rabbit hero. Not a puppy. Not a puppy, he is a hungry wolf, Rumi thought, her heart beating rapidly. Sure, but my name is Rumi. I want to be your pet rabbit. Rumi bounced after the incredibly fast Izuku, who was carrying Himiko to his chest as he took off towards the UA dorms. She hadn't mentioned this to anyone yet, but she could actually pick out Izuku's scent with her sensitive nose. He left a trail of the intoxicating smell, and at a certain point that was the only way she could follow him. He said he was taking Himiko back to the dorms to feed her, spank Mina, and then cuddle, and possibly 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗏, and she was welcome to come watch, but he had a rule against having kissy with someone he just met. Eventually, the stream of lightning stopped on a balcony and slid the door open and turned to wait on the rabbit hero. "Come on, little bunny," Izuku called. "Yeah, I'm coming, don't get your panties in a twist," Rumi said as she jumped into the air and landed next to him, a lot closer than she meant to. "Hey you, didn't know you were that desperate to be close to me," Izuku said with a smirk. Rumi audibly gulped. Her chest was practically pressed against his as he stood over her, actually blotting out the sun from her perspective. His smell was overpowering her senses, and her sensitive ears not only could hear his steady heartbeat, but also could feel his breath, which was tickling the sensitive appendages in a torturous way. Rumi then realized that he had a good reason for having all the girls he did aside from his pages. He was apparently able to tease girls without even saying anything. Shut up, nerd. Let's just get inside and stop standing out here like creeps," Rumi said, trying to push past him, only for him to stop her, his eyes fierce as he grinned down at her. "Hime, go on inside for me, I'll be in a second," Izuku ordered, his emerald eyes never losing contact with the ruby eyes of the rabbit hero. "Yes, Himiko said, excited that her fantasy of watching her MSTRFA bunny girl were close to fruition. "They called me mad. Well, we'll see who's mad when he makes her his bunny breeding beach," she thought with glee. "I'm going to give you the chance to rephrase what you just said to me, bunny," Izuku said, leaning forward so their chests actually were pressed against each other. "We should go inside," Rumi tried, knowing what he wanted to hear, but also wanted to test out what she could get away with. "On last chance, little bunny," he growled at her, his smirk gone and the harsh glint in his eyes more prominent. "See, can we please go inside, sir? I don't like being all aroused while exposed." Rumi whined, her ears and nose twitching, and she knew that Izuku would be able to feel her irked nipples pressing into his chest through her sports bra. Izuku's face visibly calmed as he took a half step back and his soft grin returned. "Good girl. Now, you get to watch as I interact my other pets, but if you even think about playing with yourself without permission, I'll delay your SEC by another day. Do you understand me?" "Why yes sir, I'll be your good bunny, I promise," Rumi said, not knowing why she would say that and be as 𝗵𝗃𝗲 as she was being, but also knowing that it made more sense than anything else she could have said. "I know. Now, I have some pets to attend to, so come on inside," he said, ushering her in as he closed the door behind him. He was immediately pounced on by an eager Himiko and an excited Mina, all while Kyoka stood there, shyly tapping her jacks together. She knew that she would probably end out having actual SEC with Izuku that night, not just him getting her off and calling her a good girl, and was slightly nervous. She had seen how rough he was with Mina, Tsu and Himiko, but also how gentle he had been with Momo, so she knew that he had some range with the degree of domination he performed, and figured by the way he treated her he wouldn't do anything she wouldn't love. "Hey girls, this is my bunny and she will just be watching for today. If she so much as rubs any part of herself, tell me immediately." "Understood," Izuku said, getting a chorus of confirmation from his pets. "Good. Himiko, you get your meal first, promise me you'll hurry up and I'll choke you while you drink." Then I promised my little space slut that I would, and I quote, "smack her pink butt until she couldn't sit for a week." I intend to at least try to do that. Finally, a certain pretty kitty deserves her reward for being such a good girl. "Himiko, be a good little blood slut and get your butt over here and get to work," Izuku snapped, feigning impatience. "Yes, 𝗵𝗃𝗏," Himiko said meekly, as she always did when Izuku got demanding. She walked over and tugged him down to her height before she quickly sank her fangs in his neck and began sucking BLD out as fast as possible as he grabbed her collar and choked her. Izuku then decided that he would just sit on Momo's bed and do his business there, so he lifted his first pet and let her sit on his lap and choked her just enough to make her brain a little fuzzy. She continued to drink for a couple more minutes before giving her signature lick that signaled she was satisfied. Izuku wasted no time lifting his blonde pet off his lap and pulled Mina over it, hitching up her skirt to find she was lacking underwear. "You naughty little alien, not even wearing underwear, you want this so bad. You are my dirty little MCST, aren't you? You want to feel my hand make uninhibited contact with this pink butt of yours, huh? Izuku growled as he charged up the smallest amount of one for all to aid his actions. No sir. Why your pink butt? Mina said in between moans, whimpers, and yelps. That's right, you and everything about you belong to me, don't they? You love being owned, don't you? Say it. Izuku growled as his second pets but became more red than pink. Why sir, I love being owned by you. Mina stuttered, yelping in pain and loving every second of it. Rumi watched in fascination before leaning over to Tsu and Momo, who seemed to be enjoying the show as Kyoka continued to be lost in her shy thoughts. Is he always so hot? Predatoric? Tsu asked as a little drool escaped her mouth, her eyes locked on the scene. Sweet. Considerable. Perfect. Momo continued as she thought of her own experiences with her owner. I'm sure that about covers it. How much can he F? Rumi asked, only wondering because of her near insatiable AC drive. Theoretically, Mr. Izuku could have as much SXL NTRCRS as he wanted due to the regenerative properties of his quirk, which actually eliminates his refractory PRD entirely as well as the time it would take to produce SPRM and SMN. It also makes him incapable of fatigue, so that would not be a problem either. Momo explained to the rabbit hero. Rumi stared blankly at the heiress before turning to Tsu. Can you explain it in a way that doesn't require a DMN PhD to understand? He F as much as he wants to F. He literally has no limit to his F. He could F for a solid decade and not even be winded. Tsu said bluntly before muttering under her breath. Yeah, that's it. Beat that but teach it a lesson. Oh, please. Rumi said as Izuku finished up with Mina. Thank you for my spanking, 𝗵𝗃. I'm going to go and rest my poor abused but now, if you'll let me. Mina said from her position on his lap. Of course, my cute little pet alien. Let me know if you want me to heal you. Izuku commanded sweetly as he lifted her and laid her face down behind him. I'll probably have to at some point, but for now I want to enjoy every sting and let it remind me how much you love your little space slut. A love-struck Mina said to her beloved 𝗧𝗏. Yeah, it's official. I will never understand 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Izuku muttered before turning to Kyoka. Come on over here, kitten. It's time for your reward. Why yes, 𝗵𝗃. Kyoka stuttered before sitting on his lap and producing a phone with a splitter and set of earbuds plugged into one side. It's a bit more INTMT this way. I hope you don't mind. She said shyly. Of course I don't. This is your reward, kitten. You could even stab your other earphone into my chest if you wanted to hear my heartbeat. Izuku said, already planting kisses on her throat while she started her favorite playlist. Wouldn't that hurt you? I don't want to hurt you. Kyoka said softly, even if that sounded like literal heaven to her. Hime literally bites my neck with her fangs and my quirk shatters my bones before fusing them back together in an instant. I won't feel a thing. Izuku assured her as he stroked her hair and continued to pepper her neck with kisses. Okay, 𝗵𝗃. Thank you. She said as she plugged her free jack into his chest. Atta girl, I love you, my pretty little kitty. He murmured to her, accidentally spiking her arousal by vibrating her jacks with the rumble of his voice. I love you too. The girl whimpered with a bright red face, her arousal intensifying her embarrassment. Izuku continued to hold his kitten for a little longer before she noticed a certain appendage poking her posterior. Sir, your thing is poking me. Kyoka said with a face so red that he was worried she might pass out. That's kinda its job, kitten. If you want to do something with it we can. I was thinking that I hold you just like this, but with my pee-pee stuffed in my pretty kitty's pretty pee-pee as I rock back and forth to gently F you. Izuku said, his voice once again making her almost painfully aroused. You promise it will feel good, right? Kyoka asked, still nervous but also getting very interested in the idea. Probably not at first, but I promise that I'll do everything I can to make you feel good. Izuku whispered to her, the music long forgotten. Okay. Please go slow. Kyoka asked as she shyly looked down. I'll need you to sit down first, kitten. Izuku reminded her as he lifted her off his lap. But I'm not as, big as the other girls. She protested, gesturing to her practically non-existent bust. You really think I find you unattractive? I don't call you my pretty kitty for nothing, sweetheart. You are appealing, and I honestly don't give two shits about what size bra you wear. Izuku assured her before kissing her gently and unbuttoning her dress shirt, her jacks still plugged into his chest. Izuku helped his blushing pet out of her clothes before getting out of his own, his irked pee-pee standing at attention. He lowered the rocker girl onto his lap, slowly sliding into her moist hole as she adjusted accordingly. As his pelvis met hers, Izuku began to hum and nibble on the end of the jack that wasn't plugged into his chest, causing Kyoka to completely forget her uncomfort until she was finished stretching to accommodate him. Good girl. I'm going to start, Izuku said, rocking back and forth as he continued to kiss every inch of her skin that he could reach. Thank you, 𝗵𝗃. Kyoka mewed quietly, loving the gentle pleasure she was feeling. Rumi continued to watch, straining as much as possible to not to touch herself. She was going to need some release at some point, even if she had to get on her knees and beg for it. At least when he was gentle it wasn't quite as 𝐬𝗓𝗔𝗐 to her as when he was degrading Himiko and Mina, but it was still a little unbearable. Sir, I'm going to come all over you. Can come, right? Kyoka asked quietly, loving every moment of her first time having AC and not wanting to be a bad girl who came without permission. Just let it go, kitten, it's okay. Come for me, pretty kitty. Izuku said in her ear. Thank you, 𝗵𝗃. She said, her orgasm interrupting her words of appreciation. You're welcome. How about you lay on the bed for a bit while you recover? Izuku said sweetly as he lifted her in his arms, his irked pee-pee still dripping, and thus mentally torturing a certain pet bunny. Okay, 𝗵𝗃. Can I have a kiss goodnight? She asked, once again shy. Izuku simply kissed her lips and tucked her into the bed they all shared. He then turned to Rumi and his 𝗬𝗵𝗲 personality was back in an instant. Bunny, you want to come at some point tonight? Get over here and put that rude mouth of yours to better use. He growled, his teasing only serving to secularly frustrate the poor rabbit girl even more. Rumi practically tackled her new 𝗵𝗃 to the ground and tried to shove the entire offending pee-pee down her throat, only to 𝐔𝐬𝐝 violently and pull off him, coughing and sputtering. Wow, not what I would suggest doing. Let me make one thing clear to you, my cute little bunny slut. If I wanted my pee-pee in your throat, I would have put it there. I said your mouth, so I want you to 𝐓𝐶K it until I decide that you deserve for me to get rough enough to satisfy your perverted little brain. Who knows? Maybe you'll earn me violently pinning you to a wall and forcing you to come all over for me. Izuku growled at her before grabbing her ears and dragging her up by them to be once again level with his pages. Remember, 3 snaps are the code for a break or that it's too rough. Don't be too stubborn to use the signals. Like hell. This has been great so far, keep it up. Rumi said enthusiastically before noticing his disapproving expression. I mean, please use your bunny slut however you want, sir. You'll have to cut me a bit of slack, I have no idea what to say yet. Then I would suggest an alternative activity for your mouth to do. Say bunny. Izuku growled at the proud rabbit hero. Rumi opened her mouth and slid the large organ into it, much more cautious this time as she made a vacuum in her oral cavity. She then looked up at him, her ears twitching as she looked adorable to the future #1 hero. Good girl, now bob your head a bit. He commanded Rumi, her ruby eyes never losing contact with his green ones as she obeyed. Atta girl. I'd say you deserve a little violence for your efforts, so I'll just finish this up real quick. Relax your throat. Izuku said before harshly grasping her sensitive ears and using them as a handle as he moved his pee-pee down her throat. Phew. You put me in my F place, you big dick stud. Rumi thought, barely managing to not choke on his pages. Izuku eventually pulled out of her mouth, giving her a chance to breathe as well as check on her. You okay, Rumi? I didn't hurt you in a way you didn't like, did I? He asked out of concern. Yes, just stop holding back and break me already, damn it. Rumi screamed, frustrated with the constant interruptions. Fine, Bunny Beach, if that's how you want it. He growled before grabbing her by the throat and slamming her into the ground, temporarily knocking the wind out of her and dialing up her arousal even more. Stay just like that. If you move, I'll snap you in half like AF twig. He growled, making Rumi accept that the shorts she wore were just ruined with all of the kinks he was unlocking with her. I bet you would, wouldn't you? No matter what I tried, you could do absolutely anything to my pathetic, weak body and I would be powerless to stop you. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 as he savagely tore her ruined clothes off her wheat-colored body. Izuku just scoffed and began teasing her soaked nether regions, making her shake as she tried not to convulse and go against Izuku's orders. Come, bunny, he ordered, causing her to spasm and convulse against him. 𝗧𝗏, he won't actually hurt me for moving, will he? Rumi thought as he loomed over her. Pretending that he was a threat to her in order to give her a bit of fear was one thing, but now it didn't seem like such a good idea. Come on, bunny, let's get you to bed, he said softly, making her do a mental double take. He laid her on the large bed that was already inhabited by 5 other girls and pulled her to his chest. His hand rested on her stomach and he began to channel his quirk into her body to erase any damage he might have caused. Plus, holy 𝗧𝗏, is this what aftercare is? It feels like he is massaging my whole body. He's also really warm. And he smells good. And he makes a great pillow. And Rumi thought, falling asleep in the arms of her new. Rumi groaned as she woke, her muscles feeling more relaxed than ever thanks to Izuku's treatment. Speaking of the green-haired Dom, Rumi realized that her arms were wrapped around his left arm and looked over to see he was already awake, simply watching her with a soft smile playing on his lips. Morning, bunny. You're an early riser too, he said quietly, seeming to try to avoid waking the other girls up, whom many had shifted to lay on various parts of his anatomy. Himiko had laid claim to his other arm with her face buried in the crook of his neck. His shoulders and pecs were being used as pillows for Momo and Kyoka as Mina and Tsu used his lower abs as their own pillow, with the former's face only an inch from his pee-pee as she inhaled and smiled in her sleep. Yeah, do they usually just kinda trap you? The rabbit hero asked the only guy to actually manage to give her any arousal at all. Yeah. Usually I have to coax them off me by promising them, breakfast, he said, slightly blushing. Breakfast? Do you cook for them then? Himiko didn't mention that. In fact, the only thing even remotely related to food was saying that you had tasty 𝗧𝗏. Rumi said, realizing what he meant by breakfast, then getting curious. Wait a sec, now that I think about it, you never did come last night, did you? Sure, you F my throat, which was hot as F, by the way, but you never finished. Can I try to get you off? Return the favor. Why, you don't have to. It's not usually an issue. Izuku said, his familiar stutter returning as he realized the gravity of his situation. This was the rabbit hero, Miruko, and she just asked if he wanted her to make him come. Normally, he'd get shy, but then he thought of what else they did the night before. He slammed her into the ground as she and squirmed as he teased her until she came. She wasn't the rabbit hero to him anymore, she was Rumi, his little bunny. 𝗧𝗏, I didn't say it right. Still getting used to this. Can I please milk your yummy come out of your massive pee-pee? Please. I want a treat and I think you have a big, juicy carrot for your little bunny, she said, pouting at him, her red eyes shining with a tone of desperation. Izuku simply smirked and began carefully working his way out of the tangle of limbs without waking up his pets and standing at the foot of the bed before saying, well, come get your treat, bunny. Unlike Izuku, Rumi woke up every single occupant of the bed as she got up and kneeled down in front of her eye level with PP, which was still naked from the night before. Rather than trying to take the whole thing down her throat like she did the day before, Rumi began to run her sensitive nose up and down his length, inhaling his scent before kissing the tip. Do you plan on smelling it all day, or are you going to do something with it? Izuku growled, sending a shiver down the spines of Rumi and the trio of pets spectating who enjoyed the rougher aspects of being 𝗬𝗏. I was waiting for you to feed it to me. Please use my ears like a handle again as you shove this massive carrot in your bunny's mouth, she said, opening her mouth and wiggling her ears invitingly. Izuku wasted no time grasping her ears like she asked and jamming his pee-pee down her throat while she suppressed her 𝐔𝐬𝐽 reflex, getting a small feeling of victory as she felt his heavy ball press against her chin because it confirmed she had taken the whole thing. That's hot. The familiar feminine voice in his head said breathily. Izuku chose to ignore that for now. One does not confront voices in their heads while ball deep in a hot girl's mouth. Good little bunny, you can take the whole thing already. We'll have to talk about your likes and dislikes later, but for now I'm going to F your throat and fill that foul mouth of yours with cum. Izuku said while sliding his length out until only the head was left past her full lips. Izuku then began to use full cowling everywhere but his brain. He didn't know what would happen if he used berserker mode during SEC and he didn't want to seriously hurt his girls, and then grab a ear in each hand so he could F the girl's mouth in the way that both of them enjoyed. Rumi began reaching for her soaked core to get some relief, but was stopped with a low growl and sharp tug on her ear. Oh yeah, I can't 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 without permission anymore. More than fair trade for him getting me off whenever I need him to. I just need to remember to beg like a good bunny for him. Rumi thought as she whimpered up to her and she got her throat pounded into, trying to convey what she wanted. You want to make yourself come, don't you? Such a naughty bunny slut. You just keep still and take this pee-pee down your throat and I'll make sure you are taken care of, you needy girl. Izuku growled at her, his words making her even more desperate, but not enough to disobey his direct order. He continued to plunge his pee-pee in and out of her throat as she continued to around it. By the time he came in her mouth, her puffy tail was twitching enough to be a blur from Izuku's view of it. As soon as she finished drinking down the admittedly delicious fluid, Izuku lifted her and slammed her into the wall, nipping and biting her neck. Oh 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, please stop teasing me and let me come for you. Rumi cried out, not caring if she sounded needy or desperate, only wanting to get off by this point. Aw, you poor thing. Maybe I should just leave you like this. Maybe I'll tie you up and make you my little rope bunny and whine about how much you need to come, even if I never do more than edge your little bunny body to the point that you are trembling. Izuku teased, filling her head with different images. She had to admit, the rope bunny thing sounded appealing, but not the edging thing. The whole reason she even noticed him was because she wanted to actually come. Please no, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. If you tie your little bunny up, you have to at least let me come for you. Rumi whined, not even bothering to resist him pushing her into the wall. Poor girl. Izuku said before slipping the first couple of inches of his pee-pee into her soaked cavern. He then rubbed her CLT with his right thumb as his left hand rubbed and pinched her NPL. She didn't stand a chance, leaking and thrashing so hard that she hit the wall with enough force to put spiderweb cracks into it. When her orgasm subsided and she returned to this plane of existence, she noticed that Izuku's pee-pee was buried inside her completely. He just waited until I was distracted to take my virginity without hurting me, she thought, feeling her unused cavity stretch to accommodate his large organ. Well, congratulations. Now I'm going to F you until even your powerful legs are numb. Izuku promised before slamming his hand on the wall next to her head, an inch from her sensitive ears, causing her to flinch. You know, normally I'd think that you didn't like me doing that, but you just tightened up enough to remind me that my dirty little bunny gets off on being scared. Izuku mused as he moved into her, smirking as the walls cracked beneath the force of his repetitive movements. Rumi just let her body go slack as she was pinned between the wall and her choke me. Please. She managed, her mind becoming less and less functional with each move. Izuku wasted no time grabbing her by the throat and pushing against the wall, careful to only pinch her jugulars and not hurt her windpipe, causing her brain to feel like it was filled with cotton rather than actually hurting his pet. Thank you, sir. Rumi stuttered in a strained voice as she was senseless into the wall with her emister's hand clamped on her neck. I could definitely get used to this, she thought before letting go of any attempts to form a coherent thought. Line break when Izuku said he would go over her likes and dislikes. This is not what she had in mind. Izuku sat with her on his lap, something she initially was opposed to but then found she liked the contact with him, and his long arms reaching around her and holding a journal with little bunny's kinks on the top of the page in front of them. Apparently, he did a page with each of his pets to help catalog their likes and dislikes. Did you like the physical pain, or just the fear that came with it? Izuku asked her as he lowered his head to rest his chin on her shoulder. She couldn't decide if she liked his height advantage or hated it. I liked it a bit, but it's not like I'm about to come from you hitting me. Rumi said, not knowing how else to put it. Don't 𝐭𝐴 shame me. Mina called from the bed behind them before resuming her conversation with Momo about getting a game system for her room since the pets spent more time in there than their own rooms. So minor masochistic tendencies when combined with fear. Can you think of anything else that you are pretty sure you have a 𝐭𝐴 for? Izuku asked the bunny girl in his lap. Rumi visibly blushed deeply. Yeah. You remember that thing you said about tying me up? And when you told me not to move last night? I think I might have a thing for restraints. Oh, I guess you really are a rope bunny. Do you want to be tied up and little pet? That is adorable. Izuku cooed as he wrote down restraints. Shut up, I'm not cute. She blushed with her arms crossed proudly, only to adorably when he reached up and stroked her sensitive ear. I don't know, that was pretty cute. Himiko commented from next to Izuku where she was sitting. Says the mega sub-vampire with a muscle 𝐭𝐴. Rumi argued back, only to get a light slap on her thigh by the owner of the lap she was sitting on. That's enough arguing out you two. Izuku said, effectively reprimanding his two pets. Fine. I also like when you growl and boss me around, when you grab my ears and tail, and I like you choking me like you did before. Besides those things, I don't know. Rumi listed while Izuku wrote them all down. Hey, Momo should make you other pets collars. Himiko said, holding up her medallion for the other girls to see. You girls should definitely do that. I'm going to talk to someone about a surprise for you girls. Izuku said, getting up and putting clothes on. Oh, did you hear that, girls? 𝗵𝗃 has a surprise for us. Mina said in excitement. 𝗵𝗃. See, can you give your pretty kitty a kiss goodbye? Kyoka said, clingy as she always was. Of course. Come on over here, kitten. Izuku commanded, his arms open for her. Izuku pulled his kitten close to his chest and kissed her soft lips before holding his jacks and giving them a gentle tug as he whispered, You're such a good little kitten for me. 𝗧𝗏 loves you. Plus, to thank you, she said before going back to her place on the bed. Now to see 𝗬𝗵𝗲. If all my pets are going to stay here anyway, we'll need more space. Izuku thought as he left the dorm. Izuku had gotten some good news and some bad news from 𝗬𝗵𝗲. The good news is that he had no problem making a separate building for the future #1 hero to have his privacy in, and as far as the public would know, that is all it would be, not a housing for him and his pets. He even sat with Izuku and drew up blueprints with him. The bad news, however, put a bit of a roadblock in his path. Because he and all of his pets that attended UA were under the supervision of Aizawa, they had to get permission from him to move into the new housing unit. Izuku asked if the principal needed to sign off on it, but 𝗬𝗵𝗲 assured him that he had full reign when it came to what buildings were made and where they were put. So Izuku walked back to Momo's room, contemplating how to bring it up with his insomnia-ridden teacher, and was surprised when he was tackled in the hallway by an enthusiastic pet bunny. Hey, the other girls said that you are willing to take on more pets, right? Rumi asked, her ruby eyes glinting with excitement. It's not exactly something I can control at this point, but why do you ask? Izuku said, sitting up and holding his bunny to his chest. Oh, well, I've got this friend, and she had a similar problem to what I did before you my bunny brains out. Do you think there's a chance that you'll be willing to get another pet as a favor to your little bunny? I'll let you my butt. Rumi offered, hoping that he'd at least help her friend once. She was going to ask if she could try anal anyway. Mina shouted from inside the room, causing the rabbit girl to glare back at her. You don't have to try to bribe me, bunny. I'm probably too busy for it right now, but if that's what you want, I'll do my best to give my little bunny what she is asking for at some other point. Izuku said before standing up with his pet and hugging her to his chest, only to nip the top of her ears and gently tugging her tail. 𝗬𝗲, you can't just tease me like that. Rumi whined up at him as she began grinding against his thigh. Then get that cute bunny but in that room and bend over the edge of the bed so I can your little bunny brains out. Izuku growled directly into her ear, towering over her and making her feel small in comparison. Rumi took very little time to sprint over to the bed and bend over the edge of it, slightly shaking her butt and wiggling her tail as Mina, Tsu, Momo, Himiko, and Kyoka just watched with amusement in their underwear, which was the most amount of clothes he could get them to wear in the bedroom. Izuku shut the door behind him and stalked over to his bunny, tearing her clothes off her body as if it was nothing but tissue paper before gathering her soft ears in his hand and pulling her head back by them. "You love being my little bunny slut, don't you?" Izuku growled in her ear as he held her short tail and used it to line himself up with her core, rubbing his pee-pee along her lower lips to get her even more excited. "Wait, please F your little bunny, sir. I need it so bad." Rumi whimpered as Izuku hit all of the sensitive areas he could. Izuku began slamming into her over and over, causing her to let her tongue loll out and drip with drool and making her red eyes cross. "After I finish F you, I'm going to have my little pup over there make me a rope to tie you up and let you watch me reward her. She's been a good little pup, and you're nothing more than my naughty bunny who wants me to hunt her down and F her into the ground. You love this, don't you?" Izuku snapped, feeling his bunny begin to twitch and spasm, indicating that she was close. "Why yes. I love being F'd by you, make me your little bunny slut." Rumi screamed as she came on him. "Atta girl. Puppy. Could you be a good girl and make me some rope to tie my bunny up with?" Izuku asked in a sweet tone, to which Momo rushed to comply, handing Izuku a long, soft rope that was just long enough. "Good puppy. Give me a minute to tie this little bunny up and then I'll give you a reward for being such a good girl." Izuku promised. He then began looping the rope around Rumi's arms and legs, tying her with her arms and legs at the side. "Tell me if you lose circulation. I don't really know how to tie someone like what I saw online when I looked into it, but I'll watch some instructional videos on it later." Izuku said, making sure the rope wasn't actually cutting into her before propping her up so she was sitting with her back to Momo's headboard. "Rumi, when you want free, tell me, okay?" Izuku said, looking into her red eyes intensely. "Okay, geez, just let me enjoy this. I'm freshly F and tied up to watch you play with another girl. I'll tell you if I need free for any reason, now please just worry about taking care of your puppy." Rumi ranted, even if her rant was undercut by the heavy blush on her face and the ropes surrounding her body. "Alright, just making sure you are set," Izuku said before planting a soft kiss on her lips, which somehow flustered her more than if he was to say he would be F her again. Izuku gestured at Momo for her to come over to him. "What would you like for a reward, Momo?" he asked, gently petting her hair while she blushed and looked down, specifically at his still hard pages. "See, could you do that thing you did with Kyoka when you had 𝗬𝗧𝗏 with her?" Momo requested with a small voice and a massive blush. "Ah, you want to cuddle fuck? That's so cute. Be a good girl and get naked for me, alright," Izuku said, helping her out of her underwear. Izuku lifted her into his arms and sat on the edge of the bed with his pee-pee pressed between them and let Momo get comfortable. I am ready, 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Can you put me on, please?" Momo said, not meeting his eyes out of shyness. "Okay girl, here you go," Izuku said, lifting his curvy pet into the air with his hands on her but before gently lowering her onto his pages. Momo then began creating something which turned out to be a set of dog ears, which she immediately fit onto the top of her head. "Arf arf," she said before panting and letting her tongue hang out, doing her best impression of an excited puppy. "Aw, who's a good girl? Did you make everyone a collar? Good girl," Izuku said while rocking her back and forth, moving just enough for it to be mutually enjoyable as he pet her head. Izuku continued to do this with Momo leaking several times until he finally finished inside her, before laying the now comatose Momo on the bed. That cutesy stuff isn't really my thing, but I suppose that was fun to watch," Rumi said from her restraints. "Do you want out yet?" Izuku asked, picking the pro hero up as if she weighed no more than a pillow. "Only if you want to play with your bunny some more, otherwise I kinda like it. If you want to come F my throat again while I'm like this, that could be pretty hot. Then again, keep that up and I might just expect you to feed me all of my food," Rumi commented, only to let out a squeal of excitement when he laid her on the bed with her head hanging off the edge, upside down and eye level with his pages. "Oh, you are going to F my throat some more? Remember not to stop and ask if I'm okay, just F away, alright Iggy? I'm not made of glass." Izuku nodded, not really liking how she had no way of notifying him that she needed a break, but decided to push it aside to give his newest pet what she wanted. Izuku hooked his thumbs on the roof of her mouth and her jaw and spread them open before sliding his pee-pee in as far as he could, her mouth vibrating pleasantly as she at the taste. Izuku began thrusting as fast as he could, putting his hand on her neck and squeezing it as her esophagus bulged. "Good little fuck bunny," Izuku complimented before snapping the rope around her legs and rubbing her soaking wet entrance. Izuku came as she around him, spurting even more of his cum directly down her throat, filling her stomach with the thick liquid. "Good girl," Izuku said as he untied the professional hero. I doubt that we'll ever get old. You should learn how to actually tie me up," Rumi said before turning to look at the clock. "OSHT, we need some sleep. I promised Ryu that I'd patrol with her in the morning and you have class. DMN, I keep forgetting that I'm sleeping with a high schooler. Anyway, I should probably go back to my apartment, 'cause that's where all my costumes are at. I'll text you the address and get you a key so you can pop in whenever you want, assuming you are alright with me being your girlfriend as well as your pet like all the other girls. I've been wanting to be your boyfriend ever since your debut," Izuku muttered before his eyes widened and he blushed heavily. "Ha! You had a celebrity crush on me. That's hilarious." Rumi laughed, doubling over in her hysterics and momentarily halting the process of getting dressed. "Yeah. Man, I need to get this muttering under control," Izuku said, leaning down to kiss the heroine and give her tail a final tug, drawing a groan out of the girl. "Why you can't just tease me like that right before I have to leave?" Rumi complained as she buried her face into his chest to hide her blush. "I guess it's your punishment for teasing me, adorable. Hop along, bunny," Izuku said before going and getting in bed with his other pets, immediately getting covered in various parts of his pets as they snuggled into him. "Good night, I'll see you later," Rumi said before launching herself off the balcony towards her home. Izuku just sighed, not as happy as if Rumi was in bed with him, but at least he knew she could take care of herself, so he let himself drift off to sleep. Line break. Izuku was sitting in class, only half paying attention to Aizawa as he wondered how to ask the teacher for the favor he needed. And that's why it is important that your hero costume lacks a cape when at all possible. Remember the motto of the greatest costume designer to ever live: no capes. You are dismissed. Midoriya. A word, if you don't mind, Aizawa said, dismissing his class before gesturing for the young hero to come to his desk. Izuku frowned in confusion. Did 𝗬𝗵𝗲 tell him what I wanted already? Why would he want a private word with him? Izuku then noticed that the 4 pets that he went to class with were reluctant to leave him there. "Go on, girls. I'm sure this is nothing to be worried about." Aizawa waited until he couldn't see them anymore before dropping his head onto the table, momentarily making Izuku think he had fallen asleep. "Midoriya, just know this isn't something that I would not ask a student if I had a choice in the matter, but I need information on a topic that you are not only the sole person I know of with experience in it, but you seem to be rather adept at it." Aizawa began, seeming to be dancing around the topic. "How do you deal with multiple girlfriends wanting to become your pets? I'm having a hard time here." Shota Aizawa had a pretty reliable routine. The underground hero dragged his sluggish body out of bed and staggered his way to his kitchen around 6 a.m. Once there, he put on a pot of coffee and consumed 3 power bars while his beloved Power Loader brand coffee maker did its daily duty, brewing the strongest coffee in the world, something he regularly purchased via the black market due to its dangerous potency. When his favorite machine had brewed the illegal liquid, the insomniac wasted no time taking an energy drink from his fridge and dumping it down into his coffee. He called the resulting heart-destroying liquid Aizawa's mild wake-up juice. After downing the entire pot, Aizawa made some more to go in his thermos, which he would be drinking from periodically throughout the day. He then spent 5 minutes stretching and popping his back and limbs from his night of patrols. As his coffee was finishing, Aizawa made his way to his closet, scoffing a bit as he saw the occupants of his bed had not moved an inch, and got into his standard outfit. He collected his thermos of liquid death and left through his window, vaulting himself over the railing of his apartment's balcony and onto the adjacent building's low roof. From there he dashed from rooftop to make his way to his day job, casually incapacitating petty criminals that were unfortunate enough to cross his path. He actually changed his route regularly because criminals would avoid the infamous erasure streak when they could. Aizawa got to his class with a half hour until the start of the day, so he took a quick power nap until the bell would wake him up. Sipping his drink, Aizawa began the day's lesson, something that he could tell the resident golden child was paying little attention to, not that he cared, since the green-haired tank could probably be a top 5 hero now, let alone when he was a bit older. He had recently given him leave to build a home for him and his pets, in exchange for some valuable advice, and Aizawa was about 3 seconds from making him a TA for the class rather than a student. As soon as his class let out and he had finished grading papers, Aizawa was out the door and on patrol, hunting any villains foolish enough to do crime in a place he would find them in, and he even only passed out cold 3 times throughout the 9 hours he patrolled until 1 in the morning, at which point he worked his way back to his apartment, getting home at around 2 and immediately eating a quick dinner and getting cleaned and in bed by 2:30. Hey, 3.5 hours of sleep. Guess I'm spoiling myself tonight, he thought with a smile as he settled under his warm blankets. Hey big guy, are you just getting in? I hope you still have some energy for your good girl. A sultry voice crooned in his ear as slim arms wrapped around his midsection. The hero thought as his BLD began to flow south of his brain. Linebreak Izuku was leading 6 blindfolded girls across the UA campus to the surprise he had gotten set up. He had promised 𝗵𝗲𝗄 a favor in return for this, who immediately told him that he was giving the favor to Power Loader in return for something he had done for him. The facility was a large building labeled as special housing and had a large MSTR bedroom with a massive bed that put even Momo's to shame and a nursery attached to it, which Izuku blushed at when 𝗵𝗲𝗄 added it, a sizable walk-in closet, a large bathroom with 4 vanities and a communal shower, a common room with different entertainment systems, a couple of chairs and couches, a kitchen with a normal variety of appliances, 2 guest bedrooms, and a small home gym. Alright girls, you can take the blindfolds off, Izuku said, pointing the girls at the new home he got for them. The pets just stood in shock before immediately shouting their thanks at him and taking off to explore. Get settled in, girls. I've got to go see Power Loader about a favor I owe him now, Izuku called throughout the domicile, smiling at their reactions. Izuku made his way over to the workshops, already having been there when he helped Power Loader move some machinery around on the first day, and found the hero arguing with a girl with pink hair. You have to leave your workshop at some point. When was the last time you ate? Power Loader said in exasperation. I had lunch on Sunday, the girl said, not even looking up from her work. That was 2 days ago and you had a single egg. He argued back before noticing Izuku. Well, if it isn't my favorite muscle-bound moving guy. What do you need, Midoriya? Power Loader asked, clearly exhausted with the girl in the black tank top. I'm here about 𝗵𝗲𝗄's favor. He did something for me, so now I owe you, not him, Izuku said, trying not to stare at the fact that the girl wasn't wearing a B. How is it possible for me to be so dim and corny with all the 𝐸𝐴 I have? Diamond Quirk. You want to help me? Convince this workaholic to get some sleep and eat something. Shower too if you can. Power Loader sighed. Hey, I don't smell bad, I'm just covered in grime. The girl protested, seeming to be frustrated with the device she was working on. You know what? I'm just going to go. Midoriya, please make sure she takes a break, Power Loader said before walking off and muttering about finding the nearest alcoholic drink. Izuku turned to the girl. Hey, why don't you want to take a break? He said, not sure how he was supposed to do this. Because I can't get this baby done. My hands are too shaky because my stupid human body is failing me, the girl said, causing Izuku to notice that her hands were indeed shaking. So when you finish this, you will take a break? Izuku asked, wondering if OFA would help alleviate the shaky hands and let her finish up. Sure. Well, maybe after my other baby. Or I could make one that improves on this one, she said, her imagination running wild. I can fix your hands, But only if you promise me that you will take a break, get something to eat and then shower and sleep. Izuku said seriously, preparing to channel OFA into his fingertips. Counter proposal. You fix my hands and then help me make a baby. The girl said before tossing the now ruined device to the side out of boredom and turning to Locke. You want me to help you make a baby? Izuku stuttered at her boldness. Yeah, I need a male body for it. And you have those big muscles, and that makes it better. The psychotic girl said as she cleared off her desk. Why? I don't sleep with people I just met. Izuku protested, worried that this girl was unstable. I don't plan on sleeping. Although I did promise, so I guess we can both sleep afterwards. She said before grabbing the bottom of his shirt and tugging upwards on it, try to take it off him. A little help, muscles. And my name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku said, not letting the shirt come off of him. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲, genius inventor extraordinaire of 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Industries. Now come on, this will work better if you aren't wearing clothes. She said, producing a pair of scissors and cutting his shirt off him. I won't have 𝗧𝗍 with you. Izuku shouted in exasperation, breathing heavily before making the mistake of glancing down at her and accidentally looking down her black tank top. Section. You mean that thing that is supposed to feel good and that people do to get kids? Nah, I'm too busy right now, I have to get this baby made. Take your pants off so I can make the final adjustments. She said, producing a small metal box, about 1 by 2 by 2 inches in size. Izuku didn't think he had ever blushed that hard in his entire life. He dropped his pants and stood there quietly, hoping she didn't bring up how badly he misunderstood what she was asking. 𝗵 wasted no time slapping the box to his chest and watching with manic glee as it stabbed into him, leaving a metal square embedded in the middle of his chest behind when she took it off him. What is on my chest? Izuku asked, only to notice that she was staring at his abs intensely. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Oh, sorry, I was looking at your body. When I'm done with it, that device on your chest will be able to coat your body in a customizable hero costume. The nanobots can recreate metal structures and can imitate cloth, but are much stronger. 𝗵 explained as she poked his stomach. Why does my stomach feel funny when I touch or look at you? Part of your quirk. Izuku decided not to try to explain 𝗬𝗏𝗏 to the girl, and just touched the cold metal now embedded in his chest. So how do I turn it on? Oh, I made an app. Just plug your phone into my computer over there and it should start the download. 𝗵 said, looking up from her place where she was now rubbing his abs and causing him to get an unfortunate irkton. 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗏. What are you doing? He asked the pink-haired girl. Well, your muscles are really cool. Not only are they more complicated and dense than most humans, but they also seem to have little tubes of biological conductive material connecting your cells. You said you would fix my hands? The scatterbrained scientist said. Izuku nodded and grabbed her hand, channeling his quirk into her at 1%, affecting the girl immediately. Wowza! I feel like I just shot an energy drink in my veins after waking up from a 24-hour nap. And my vision is even better. I can see everything on a submicroscopic level. Congratulations, muscles, you are my new lab assistant, now to get to work on your new suit. I'm thinking green and black with a red trim. No, red boots and gloves. 𝗵 said, pulling her hand away from his and fiddling with her computer. Yeah, are you sure this is safe? Izuku asked as the metal box on his chest began humming as the nanobot factory booted up for the first time. Yeah, sure, you are correct, but I can't get it to consume the molecules in the air like it is supposed to. Good thing that I didn't put this on someone. The robots would start eating them until the costume is made. 𝗵 said, not paying attention to him. 𝗵, you put it on 𝗵-. Izuku was cut off as the machine in his chest began consuming his flesh to print the new robots for his suit, only for his quirk to regenerate even faster than 𝗵's machine could damage him. Within seconds, a new hero suit that matched the image on her screen was spread across his muscular frame. Wow. I don't think anyone but me can use it, but this tech is amazing. Izuku exclaimed after his suit was made. How do I get it off? Izuku asked. I knew I forgot something. Welp, I can shut it off, muscles, but unless you have some industrial-grade acid laying around, you can't. Mei said, now 𝗔𝗪𝗙𝗔 his arm. Izuku sighed before walking to his phone. I know someone. Line break Mina had a smirk on her face as she melted the suit off of her 𝗬𝗡's suit, only to find that he was wearing only underwear underneath it. My, 𝗬𝗡, you seem to have been having fun with this girl here. Is she your new pet? Mina asked while looking the girl up and down. You really want to be punished this badly. Why don't you just ask for it? Izuku growled in Mina's ear. It's always better when it feels like an actual punishment. Your little naughty alien likes it better when you are just a little angry while you punish her. Mina whispered back. Plus, shaking his head, Izuku turned to Mei. Sorry about her, she likes acting out. Get some rest and eat something and I'll come back to help you test this later. Izuku then began walking to the new home with Mina on his heels while she typed out a new message on the chat. Bratty alien pet, I have a new girl to put on the potential pet list. Mei was sure that something was wrong with her. Normally, she would simply work and work until she passed out, then would continue working again, but here she was, in a shower and getting clean. Why am I even worried about being clean? There are so many babies I could be making right now. Like maybe a device that helps muscles. Wait, why am I thinking about him? It doesn't matter. Maybe I can make a device to watch him and figure out what to get him. Mei mused as she finished getting clean. It'd be a shame if I scared Muscles off because I smelled bad, he probably doesn't like that. Mei dried off and got dressed in clean clothes, just in case Muscles dropped by, before heading to her computer to program the nanobot factory in his chest to put a listening device in his chest. Line break Rumi was bouncing off different buildings as she struggled to keep up with her long-time friend, Ryukyu. They hadn't actually exchanged any words that day, but they would usually take a break from fighting pretty soon and hang out on top of Rumi's apartment. Normally, Rumi had no trouble keeping up with the dragon hero, but her legs weren't at 100% due to some 𝗵𝗲 attention that she received from her MSTR that morning. As soon as she woke up she found him on top of her, applying just enough weight to make breathing difficult and grinning down at her. Morning, little bunny. I'm going to F you, keep quiet or you'll wake the other girls up. Izuku whispered before sliding into her and forcing her to stifle a at the sudden ping. Rumi reached to grab his hand and put it on her throat before laying back contently so she could just enjoy herself. The rabbit hero snapped out of her memories with a small smile on her face when she saw that the dragon hero had shifted back into her usual self and sat in one of the lawn chairs they kept on the roof for such breaks. Girl, you getting old on me. Ryukyu said with a smirk. Rumi landed on the rooftop and began walking to the second chair, her powerful legs trembling with each step until she collapsed into her seat. Haha, you are so hilarious. Rumi said sarcastically. My legs are just a little sore and worn out. But today's been pretty slow, and I doubt you've worked out lately, so that only leave you beach. You got laid. The dragon hero raged, angry that her friend had found a guy before she did. My new MSTR. He made me his little pet bunny and F me good and hard. He even woke his little bunny up with a very nice surprise, if you catch my drift. Rumi said smugly as she took a soda out of the small fridge. And he treats you like a pet. Did you order him from a catalog or something? Ryukyu questioned as she took a drink for herself. Nope, we were brought together by a couple different people, All Might being one of them. Told you that you should have asked for his help like I did. Rumi said. She planned on asking if her best friend wanted to become Izuku's newest pet, but not before letting her squirm a bit. Oh. Forgive me for not wanting to ask a 30-year-old man to help me find a SXL partner when I was 18 like you did. I just graduated and thought I could find one myself. Ryukyu snapped. Normally, she wouldn't be so angry, but she just didn't think this was fair. Guess you should have. Don't worry, I'll be sure to name one of my kits after you. I'll probably end up with a litter. Rumi said, checking her nails. Ryukyu fell silent, and Rumi looked over to see a tear make its way down her face. 𝗧𝗓 took it too far. That's great, sniff Rumi. I hope you're happy with him. Ryukyu said with downcast eyes. Yeah, like you aren't going to be happy with him too. I'm sorry for messing with you, but of course we're going to share him. Rumi said, trying to cheer her friend up. Really? You'd be willing to share him? Ryukyu said hopefully, thinking that she'd finally get to be happy with a guy. Well, I kinda already share him. I am technically the 6th pet in his 𝐻RM. Rumi said while scratching the back of her head. Pet 𝐻RM. Oh no way, you're 𝗵𝗲𝗍𝗔 successor, aren't you? You realize we were supposed to hold the villains down until he got his license, not F him, right? Ryukyu said with her arms crossed, her drink forgotten. I can do 2 things. Besides, do you have any idea what SEC with him is like? He is just about the only guy I've met who I can't push around and he plays into it. The first time we did anything, he grabbed me by the throat and slammed me into the ground, then he choked the SHT out of me while he teased me into leaking. It was the hottest thing ever, and the kid has, like, a 10-inch pages. Rumi said with stars in her eyes. Did he say that he would help with my problem? Ryukyu said coolly with a slight blush coloring her cheeks. Well, sort of. But I have a plan. I need you to autograph this. Rumi said before withdrawing a journal from her bag. He's a bit of a fanboy, so I was able to get his journal with the promise that I'd get him your autograph. Little Bunny's kinks. Ryukyu said aloud with an eyebrow raised. Not that page, not that page. Rumi said, ripping the journal away from her friend. Line break. What do you mean that can't be my name? Mina shouted at midnight, upset that her hero name was rejected. MSDR's naughty pet alien. Try again. The professional hero said, shooting Aizawa a sympathetic glance. Mina began grumbling under her breath as she went back to her seat, something about deserving a reward for having to put up with this bullshit. Shinso, you're up, Aizawa said to his pupil, gesturing to the front of the class. Shinso got to the front with his slate and swallowed nervously. I didn't have a name at first, but I got this idea from Midoriya. The pacifying hero, stand down. Shinso said shyly before sitting back down, not one to be in the center of attention. See Mina. That's what a normal hero name sounds like. Himiko said from Izuku's lap. First of all, I will not be shamed for my devotion. Second of all, when did you get here? Mina said to the girl who was contently lounging on her MSDR's lap. I've been here on MSDR's lap like a good girl. I wouldn't question it if I were you. Himiko responded, completely dodging the question. Midoriya, come tell us your hero name. Midnight said from the front of the class with her arms crossed and a W in her hand. Izuku planted a kiss on Himiko's forehead and set her on his desk before he went to the front of the classroom and stood at the podium. He had thought a lot about his hero name, and he liked the one he chose. It was honoring his quirk and his predecessors, had a covert meaning for the public, and was massive to the man who crippled his hero. One for all, one hero for all people. Izuku said, going back to his seat as his classmates nodded at his choice. Alright, good name. Now, Ashido, would you like to try again? Midnight asked. Yep. MSDR's naughty pet hero. She said, standing up and thrusting her fist into the air. Midnight let out a sigh before turning to Aizawa. I'm starting to see why you are always tired. Now I almost feel bad about last night. Almost. Linebreak Ryukyu wasn't sure about this, but Rumi assured her that this was part of the plan. She was walking on the UA campus to submit her intern forms in person rather than through email or the regular mail when something caught the light and reflected it back to her eyes. She walked over to what appeared to be a small gold coin glinting on the ground. Surely no one would want to leave something like this here. I'll just take it, and if someone asks about it I'll return it. Ryukyu reasoned as she picked the coin up and slid it in her pocket, only to see 2 more coins 10 feet ahead of her. More. I guess that I should return those too. Ryukyu went to pick them up and then saw a small purple gem. Then a large emerald. Then a pile of coins. Then a silver cup filled with appealing rubies. Then a gold cup overflowing with sapphires. This continued for a while, the riches getting more and more valuable until she found a massive pile of gold and gems on a massive bed. Ryukyu wasted no time getting sparkles in her eyes and practically diving into the pile of riches, only to freeze when she heard a throat get cleared behind her. She turned and saw her best friend grinning and standing next to a tall, muscular guy with green hair that she saw on the news. Mr. This is my best friend Ryukyu. She has the same problem I did before you my little bunny brains out. Hey Ryu. You're kinda in his bed right now. Rumi said, practically bouncing with excitement. Yeah, why is there a bunch of treasure in my bed by the way? Izuku asked, looking apprehensively at the massive mountain of gold and dragon hero. Your puppy helped me make a bunch of dragon bait. Isn't she a pretty dragon? She would make a good pet dragon for you. Don't you want to just F her into pile of gold until she passes out? Rumi asked him. Izuku turned to the rabbit hero and raised an eyebrow. Subtle. You know I don't F girls the same day I meet them, and I don't even know if she is interested in 𝐵. I am. I would like it if you helped me find relief. My quirk makes it where I have a longing to be dominated, much like Rumi. I have never done this sort of thing and I have no knowledge of this, but I can do research. Sorry to interrupt. Ryukyu said, a dark blush dusting her cheeks as she refused to meet Izuku's eyes. You realize how much cuter it is that you haven't even watched Pawn before. Even I did every once in a while, but you're so innocent. Come on, 𝗵𝗃, you've got to make her your pet dragon. Rumi said, now literally bouncing in place. Bunny, stop teasing. Izuku sighed as he scratched behind her ears and caused her to let out a small You're sure you want to be a pet? I believe so. Can you provide me with release immediately? Ryukyu asked, rubbing her arm self-consciously. Nah, you gotta say it like this. Can you please make your little bunny come? Rumi said, only for Izuku to shoot her a glare that soaked her panties immediately. You just sit there and be quiet, bunny. I'll F you a little bit later. Izuku growled before turning to Ryukyu. Don't listen to her, she's just enthusiastic. I have a policy against SEC with a girl that just became my pet, but I will definitely make you feel better if I can. Do you have any preferences? I am here to steal your treasure, so maybe this little dragon should be shown the error of her greedy ways. Ryukyu suggested, extremely embarrassed to be asking this sort of thing. Punishment 𝐭𝐴. Surprising but okay. Izuku said before his entire demeanor shifted. Naughty little dragon, did you really think you could just steal from me and get away with it? You need to be punished. Weiss, I need to be punished for stealing from you, sir. Ryukyu said, looking down as she felt some arousal invade her mind. Izuku wasted no time getting on his bed amongst the riches and pinning the dragon hero to the pile of coins before slowly running his fingers around her sensitive body to tease the hero. I thought you meant pain as a punishment. This teasing is worse for me because I have never done something like this before. Ryukyu shouted as she squirmed. Plus, oh, so should I spank your little dragon butt? Fine by me. Izuku said before sitting on the edge of the bed and laying her across his lap. Thank you. Ryukyu said, excited that it would get even better than this. Ryuko had discovered she liked, loved, being cuddled by her new 𝗵𝗃. He was warm, a nice pillow, and he smelled good. She had been given the spot where her head was resting on his right shoulder, but awoke suddenly when she had the taste of powerful BLD lingering on her tongue. She freaked out immediately because she was known for her pillows getting shredded as she slept. She opened her eyes and saw Izuku smiling at her in amusement while she had her sharp teeth buried in his neck. I am so sorry, I should have gotten some kind of guard to stop this. Ryuko said after extracting her sharp teeth from his neck, only to see Himiko on his other side snoring quietly with her fangs embedded in his neck. It's really not a big deal, it was kinda cute to be honest. Izuku said, his gentle smile unwavering. You can put them back in if you want, I barely feel it thanks to Himi here. You don't mind? Really? Ryuko asked, noticing that the only evidence of her bite was a bit of BLD on his neck. Go on ahead, you've been such a good little dragon, I don't mind if you need to chew on something. Izuku said, not moving so as to not disturb the girls who were contently cuddling into him. Thank you. Ryuko murmured before sinking her teeth into him again. You're welcome, get some sleep my little dragonling. Izuku said, relaxing to go back to sleep. Line break. Izuku woke up a couple of minutes after his two pro-hero pets and they seemed to be arguing. He is going to be interning at my agency, if he went to yours you two would turn your office into AF nest and never leave it. Ryuko said to Rumi, both of which had extracted themselves from the pile of bodies. Yeah. The only reason that sounds like a bad thing to you is because you haven't had SEC with him yet. I've been with him longer, so I get his internship. Rumi argued back, her foot thumping the ground in irritation. That is preposterous. I would never let my base instincts come before my duty as a hero. Ryuko said proudly to her shorter friend. Bullshit, we lured you to his bed with treasure, and don't think for a second Izuku is any less irresistible. Rumi scoffed at the dragon hero. That's enough fighting. I should have known you two would have acted this way, but I'm not going to either of your agencies. I got an invitation from Endeavor and I need to train under the #1 hero if I'm going to replace him. Izuku said, sitting up and causing his pets to make little whines and half-hearted complaints before they cuddled into each other and went back to sleep without Izuku. What do you mean you are training with that flame-haired butt? I'd rather you go to hers. Rumi shouted at Izuku before her red eyes widened and she covered her mouth. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, she talked back. She needs to get punished now. Mina said from the bed, sitting up as a sleepy Himiko tried to pull her back down. Come on, Isu, I'm trying to sleep. The BLD-dependent girl muttered, not realizing who she was holding onto like a koala bear. Bunny, get your butt over here. No. Izuku snapped. Normally he wouldn't enforce rules as much as he probably should, but Rumi had told him early on that he needed to keep her in line. Line break to, can't I just get a good spanking instead? This is so embarrassing. Rumi said with a bright blush on her face. On the outside, she was in a hoodie and sweatpants with some sneakers, all of which were baggy and useful to disguise her identity. Underneath her baggy clothes was nothing but a harness made from rope that was specifically tied to tease her with every step and jostle, even more so if Izuku pulled on it with his leash that went under the back of the hoodie and then to the harness. That means it's a good punishment. No one knows who you are, and it's too early for people to be out. We are going on a walk for a few blocks, and if you are a good bunny on the walk, you'll get a reward when we get back home. Understood? Izuku said, walking her forward on the abandoned streets. Yes, Mr. I understand. Rumi said, trying not to get turned on at her humiliation. I do not have an exhibition 𝐭𝐴. I refuse to have a 𝐭𝐴 for humiliation. Good bunny. Look at that blush, you love this, don't you? You like being paraded around and teased, my 𝐭𝐲 little bunny. Izuku cooed in her ear, applying slight pressure to her ropes. Sir, please don't tease me. I know I was naughty, but please have mercy on your silly little bunny. It's not my fault I wasn't thinking straight, you F my brains out. Rumi reasoned, only to get the rope that ran between her legs tightened to tease her even more. I suggest you just walk, or I'll take you to a bench and spank you until more people show up and then walk you home. Izuku threatened. He wouldn't actually do that to her, she didn't need her reputation tarnished, but she was the one who told him to be strict with her punishments. Why yes, thank you for correcting my behavior. Rumi said with a fire-red blush on her face and the knowledge that if he kept it up she would have a visible wet spot on her pants. Good bunny. Now, come on. Izuku said before guiding her forward. Line break. As soon as they got back to their home, Rumi tore off her clothes and ropes with her impressive strength and dropped to her knees to beg. Mr. I was a good bunny. I was a good bunny for you on your walk, right? I deserve to come. Please. Rumi said, her red eyes glinting with the madness of a girl with a massive SEC drive who has been edged and teased for an hour. Oh, poor desperate bunny. You're not going to talk back again, are you? Izuku questioned, and he tilted her head to look up at him. What's the answer that gets you to rail me into the wall until I'm just a dumb little bunny, waiting for my 𝗵𝗲 to come F me again? Rumi said, her breathing heavy. Just say that you will try harder to be a good girl and you'll be rewarded. Izuku said, gently stroking her cheek. I promise that I'll try my hardest to be a good little bunny, now I need you. Please. Rumi said, pawing at his pants. All right, little bunny. Izuku said before letting out a low growl and picking her up by her throat, pushing her against the wall and dropping his pants to the floor. Izuku moved into her and choked against the wall, causing her tongue to loll out and her red eyes cross in an adorable way. Thank you 𝗵𝗲, I love you. Rumi slurred as she came all over him, her built-up tension from their walk, causing her to be hypersensitive. Oh, I love you too, bunny. Are you my good little fuck bunny? Izuku asked as he broke her brain. Good little fuck bunny. Rumi agreed, about to pass out as she came again. Good. Izuku said as he gently kissed her and laid her on the bed. 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗄 pages. Push. Rumi said, half unconscious. No, you are going to need your rest, cutie. Keep being a good girl and I'll F you later. Izuku promised, tucking her into the bed so she could take a nap as his dragon watched with interest. To think that all these years all she needed to calm down was to be F'd by someone like you. Ryuko mused. Yeah, I suppose so. Did you want to actually have SEC yet or wait a bit longer? Izuku asked the dragon, sitting next to her and lifting her onto his lap, causing Ryuko to blush as she felt little Izuku poking her. I would like to wait a bit longer, if you don't mind. I do like you very much, but I would prefer we save the actual thing until the internships have concluded. Ryuko said, wrapping her arms around his neck and hugging him from his lap. You know, I would appreciate it if you fulfilled a thing I've been curious about. I bit you last night, and I feel that it is only fair if you return the favor. That's not necessary. I have a healing quirk and a good tolerance for pain. Izuku said while running his finger up and down her spine and sending shivers through her body. Perhaps I need to rephrase my sentence. Ryuko said before leaning in to whisper in his ear. Your bad dragon bit you, so you need to bite her back, nice and hard to make sure she's learned her lesson. Huh, you really do have a thing for punishment, and biting too, apparently. Izuku mused, then he grasped some of the blonde hair on the side of her head and pulled her head to the side, baring her neck to him. Ryuko let out a soft gasp as she felt his teeth on her neck, first dragging them across her sensitive skin before he bit down, forcing a from his dragon. Yes, I've been a very naughty dragon, and I need my 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗧𝗏 to set me straight. Ryuko as Izuku left his mark on her pale neck. Line break Izuku was sitting on his bed with Himiko. On his lap, feeding, with Momo and Jairu on either side of him, Mina sitting on the floor between his legs and Tsu sitting behind him with her chin resting on his shoulder while they watched TV. There was a fight between a purple monster that had the ability to make slime that was sticky or bouncy, and Rumi and Ryuko. The two top female heroes seem to have this fight well enough in hand, but I do believe that is a hickey on the dragon hero's neck. Has our dragon princess found herself a knight in shining armor? We'll ask in her next interview. The newscaster said while Rumi went to bounce off something, only to become stuck completely. Oh, and the rabbit hero is stuck. All of the ladies are mine. The purple slime monster cried as it threw more on the bunny. All of Izuku's pets noticed him tense up and he moved them off of him, but continued to just watch the TV. Hopefully, Ryukyu will be able to fight on without her comrade, and the dragon hero has been hit by the slime too, and is crashing down to the ground. If there are any heroes in the area, these two need help. The newscaster panicked as she watched the two top-ranked heroes get beat by a monster, but Izuku knew better. That's a Nomu, it's moving like that with speed quirk. I'm going to have to help, I'm the only one to ever beat a Nomu in a fight. Izuku said, pulling on his hero costume as Mei hadn't finished the nanobot factory design and prepared to speed off to the battlefield. Kick its butt. Mina cheered while Momo wished him luck, Himiko blew him a kiss, Kyoka gave him a brief hug, and Tsu licked his face from afar. Izuku let his quirk charge up through his body and left in a flash of green lightning. It seems all is lost. No hero is close and the monster appears to be trying to abduct our heroes to do who knows what dash. The newscaster was cut off as a green blur with a trail of lightning came rising into the field and smashed the monster into the nearby building. I am here. Izuku shouted as he brought his foot down on the Nomu's head with an axe kick, crushing it only for it to reform. Midoriya. Why do you always have to spoil my fun? I'll kill you and then take these ladies for myself. The Nomu warbled as if it were speaking underwater. Izuku simply let out a cold chuckle that made even the newscaster shiver in fear. Kill me. And who decided that? Kidnap heroes. And who decided that? End of the road, Mineta. I decided that. The streets shook and trembled as Izuku battled the perverted Nomu. Izuku could break him with a single punch, but the grape would just reform from his slime immediately after. You'll have to give up at some point, Izuku. What's two ladies that you barely know? You have Momo and her big tips, Mina and 𝗵𝗃𝗏, that crazy girl who's obsessed with you, and that froggy girl. I'm not even in UA anymore. But the League of Villains took me in, and they said I could have all the ladies I wanted. Mineta said before getting his slimy head kicked clean off and reforming. Man, does this piece of SHT ever shut up. No matter how many times I kick his, but he keeps coming back. Izuku thought before his eyes lit up with an idea. Izuku slammed into Mineta and splattered him into the ground before running off and returning with his classmate who was standing in nothing more than pajamas. Stand down. Wanna make your debut? Izuku grinned at the guy. Could have used some warning, one for all, I would have changed. Hitoshi said, remembering to use the hero names before stepping towards the raging purple monster. This is who replaced me. Some random Gen Ed nobody. Who even are yo dash? Mineta stiffened as Hitoshi activated his quirk. I am stand down. Time for you to surrender. Hitoshi said, gesturing to Izuku who was holding a series of empty 2-liter bottles. The newscaster and assembled crowd watched as the monster blindly obeyed the newcomer and stuffed himself into the bottle. Izuku secured the lid to the bottle tightly and handed him to a police officer to be taken to Tartarus prison, and then went to Rikio and Rumi and freed them. Rumi cleared her throat and mustered her most professional tone. Thank you, one for all, I appreciate the assistance. She said before bouncing away, most likely to his home. Yes, thank you. Can I have a kiss? Rikio asked, pressing herself against Izuku and causing everyone's jaws to drop in surprise. Not the time, Izuku hissed under his breath. Trust me, this needs to happen, I wouldn't do this without reason. Now your good dragon asked for a kiss. Rikio whispered, closing her eyes and leaning up as much as she could to his superior height. Sighing, Izuku pressed his lips to hers and tangled his hand in her shortish blonde hair for a moment before tugging her head away from his face, a small string of saliva connecting them. Good little dragonling, remind me to reward you later. Izuku said, fully trusting his newest pet. Thank you, 𝗵𝗃𝗏. I'll have to give an interview, so you should go home and watch it. I'll see you later tonight, 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Rikio said, her golden eyes glinting with determination. Izuku nodded and planted a kiss on her forehead before scooping up Hitoshi and speeding off back to the dorms. Thanks for the help, Hitoshi. I'll definitely have a spot for you at my agency when I'm a hero. Izuku said as he deposited his friend in his room. Yeah, that might be nice. Hitoshi said, a rare grin finding its way across his features. Izuku ran to his home and began watching the TV immediately and caught the beginning of Rikio's interview. So that was quite the display between you and 𝐈𝐧𝐿, the reporter began, only to be cut off by the dragon hero. One for all. Sorry to interrupt. Yes, one for all and I have a romantic relationship, therefore, his actions tonight could not be considered vigilante, as he was protecting a loved one, with the help of his friend. Rikio said coolly, slightly turning so her hickey was on more prominent display. I see. And one for all has rumors swirling around him that he has formed some sort of HRM of girls who are interested in a very specific type of relationship. Would you say that you would fall under that category? The reporter asked, trying to get more information than she had without provoking the dragon hero. Honestly, that is not your place to ask, but I will tell you anyway. I consider myself his pet dragon, and I enjoy it quite a bit. As for the rumors of a HRM, I refuse to acknowledge them as true or false. Rikio said, careful to not share secrets that weren't hers to share. Really? Because I happen to have a source in UA that says that All Might's successor has no less than 4 girlfriends in his classes, as well as one mysterious blonde girl with yellow eyes and sharp teeth, which I would assume is you. The source named 𝗂𝐭𝐻𝗔𝗪. The reporter was cut off as Rikio's eyes flashed dangerously. So you find out that the strongest person in the world and the next symbol of peace has loved ones, and you immediately begin plastering their names everywhere. I revealed my identity because I can handle myself in a fight. This interview is over, please do not contact me or my associates. Rikio said before shifting to her dragon form and flying to her 𝗵𝗃𝗏 for her promised reward. The dragon hero dropped onto the UA grounds right outside Izuku's hall and shifted back and walked inside. When she was inside, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 was pulled into a hug and got a kiss on the forehead. Clever dragon. Give me a moment to talk to my kitten, then I'll reward you for getting me out of trouble. Izuku murmured, nipping at her mark and getting her to gasp. Please hurry. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 begged, desperate for attention as soon as she was the target of his teasing. He is far too good at that. Normally, I'd be seeking a way to resist his charms, but I don't know that I want to. Izuku turned to Kyoka and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. Are you okay, pretty kitty? I never meant for your identity to get out. Izuku said, softly stroking her head and causing her to let out cute purrs. It's not that big of a deal, though. The world basically knew about Mina after the sports festival, so I'll just have to contact my parents about it. You might have to meet them after your internship tomorrow. Kyoka said, leaning into hand and softly smiling at the contact with her beloved Well, my mom would have been more concerned, but it turns out she's just as 𝐒𝐭𝐲 as I am, so I got off the hook. Mina said, her pink brows scrunched up. Speaking of which, I think you should give Kyoka some special attention while we watch. Your needy kitten probably will have a hard time during the internships. I'll be sure to give her all the attention I can tonight, but first I have a clever dragon to reward for getting me out of trouble. Izuku said before turning to pull Momo into his chest. Before turning to Momo. Puppy, come here. Momo walked over and sat like a dog in front of Izuku with her puppy outfit on. Yes, what do you want your good puppy to do? I can make something for you. Arf arf. Momo said excitedly. Usually, Izuku didn't ask her to use her quirk for him because he felt like it was using her, but at the same time, Momo loved doing things for him. Izuku bent down and whispered in her ear for a moment before she focused and produced a silver and emerald collar that read OFA's pet dragonling on one side and could be flipped to say MSDR's dragon, where he could put good or bad, depending on her current state. Izuku held the jewelry/collar out to 𝗏𝗏𝗏 so she could look it over and enjoyed the smile it put on her face. You know, I altered my hero costume so I could show off my mark. I had to get rid of the part on my neck, so you will need to mark up my shoulder so it is still visible when I wear my collar. I love this collar and plan on making it part of my hero costume. Tokyo said before handing it back to Izuku and turning around. Will you please put it on me, sir? Izuku smiled and put it on her and gave it an experimental tug when Momo tugged on his breathed leg. Did I do well, sir? I love making things for you, so I want you to ask for anything you ever want from your good puppy. Yes, you did very well, pup. You're all such good girls, even Mina, despite her attempts to be otherwise. I love you all and will miss you when I am training with 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Izuku said as he went to the bed and gestured for them all to follow. The sleeping arrangement that night had his two neck biters on either side of him so they could do what they usually did at night. Mina at her usual place where she hugged his legs, and Rumi doing the same on the other side, Tsu and Momo snuggling into his sides, and Kyoka intimately sleeping on top of him with his pee-pee buried inside her. I love you girls. You mean the world to me, Izuku said, happy with his significant others so close to him. We love you too, sir. Line break. Izuku sipped his coffee as he and Shoto walked to 𝗏𝗏𝗏's agency. You know, all my father will have us do is train and then not give us any cold soba, right? It's bad enough now that Mina is out of the dorms, but at least she kept bringing me enough to last me every once in a while. Shoto grumbled as he sipped his iced latte. I feel like I'm the one suffering the most for not being with my girls, but okay. What do you think your dad will have us doing? Izuku asked. Most likely something that will irreversibly damage a hand. I don't know though, that might be something from another timeline. Shoto said in his standard monotone, creeping out Izuku. Moving on. Have you spoken to your mother? Izuku asked, changing the subject as fast as possible. Due to the decrease in availability of the soba your alien makes for me, I have made contact with the only person who I have met who makes soba that tastes as good as your Mina's does, which happens to be my mother. So long as I don't let her make tea around me, I will be safe. Shoto said as they entered the building. The next days were filled with Izuku and Shoto training together and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 doing his best to figure out a flaw in Izuku's fighting style. Enough. I need to see how Izuku fights against someone who is primarily close-ranged. We're going hunting, boys. 𝗵𝗃 said, gesturing for them to follow him. Where are we going? Izuku asked, pulling a green shirt over the black tank top he was training in. The hero killer has been operating there and we could use the exercise. 𝗵𝗃 said while they walked. It was night by the time they reached Hosu and Izuku immediately noticed 𝗧𝗵𝗲 and his pet kitten there already. What are you two doing here? Izuku said, whipping his head around to search for threats. We found out what those monsters with multiple quirks are. Apparently, they have weird DNA that was tracked here. Why are you three here? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked, with his intern running and wrapping her arms around Izuku. 𝗵𝗲. We are here for the hero killer. Izuku said, getting the weirdest feeling that he and Kyoka were in danger. You're welcome, kid. A voice whispered in his mind. Calm yourself, but you and your girlfriend will be safe. 𝗵𝗃 grumbled, only to meet green, ferocious eyes. She had better be. Izuku growled, his new sense for danger pulsing inside him. Watch yourself, boy. You are a necessary stepping stone for Shoto on his path to the top, but nothing more, so don't be cocky. 𝗵𝗃 said, leaning into Izuku and trying to emphasize the few inches difference in height between them. Stepping stone. Let me tell you something. Your son is a powerhouse, no way around it, but that won't be enough. I will be the #1 hero, but I suppose there will always be room in second place. Guess the apple doesn't fall that far. Izuku said. 𝗵𝗃 was flabbergasted before he heard a snicker from next to him. 𝗬𝗏 just obliterated him. A heavily armed man in red said. 𝗵𝗃 growled. Smash. Izuku said as he swung a punch with 20% of his quirk, only to hit air as the hero killer dodged him. Well, if it isn't the new All Might. I expect great things from you, you have massive shoes to fill. I was actually very excited to meet you and see what kind of hero you would be. The guy said as he backed away from Izuku. Izuku dashed at the man and swung, catching his jaw with a 10% punch and sending him crashing into the wall. 𝗬𝗏, you hit like a truck. Anyway, checkmate here. 𝗧𝗏 said, holding up a knife with a small amount of BLD on it. It takes more than a little cut to kill me. Izuku said stoically. I know. Anyway, take a seat, hero. 𝗧𝗏 said before licking his blade. Izuku felt his body go numb as he collapsed to the ground. What the hell? Izuku said as he realized that he couldn't move. He hadn't felt this helpless since the day he got his quirk. A large screech filled the air as a winged 𝗏𝗲 began circling overhead and a large one tackled 𝗧𝗵𝗲 to the ground. Everything was going wrong as Izuku stared helplessly at Kyoka, who had no defenses aside from her speaker for her heartbeat. More 𝗏𝗲s emerged and surrounded 𝗵𝗃, forcing him and Shoto to become preoccupied with fighting them off. Suddenly, the winged 𝗏𝗲 dived down and snatched up Kyoka as she ran to help Izuku, her attempt to protect him only serving to put her in harm's way. Plus, 𝗵𝗃. Help her. Izuku screamed, his body refusing to respond to him. I'm busy, boy. He grunted, burning another 𝗏𝗲 to a crisp as Kyoka tried fighting off the 𝗏𝗲. Sir, help. She cried out as her speaker was slashed by the 𝗏𝗲's claws. Izuku watched in horror as she was carried away by the monster. Izuku sat in defeat, his beloved pet carried away from him and he was helpless to stop it. Well, that must 𝐻𝐭. At least the tragedy will make you an even better hero, so the world will be a better place without her. 𝗧𝗏 said, shrugging as if it was no big deal. What the F did you just say to me? Izuku asked, his shaggy green hair casting a shadow over his eyes, only for the darkness created by his emerald locks to be pierced by his harsh glowing green irises. Easy there, kid. You'll be paralyzed for a bit more and the monsters seem to be keeping the heroes busy. 𝗧𝗏 said, only for a black tentacle to shoot out of the boy's chest and wrap tightly around the hero killer's shoulder, rotator cuff, and upper arm. Hold on, kid. My quirk is based on your emotions, so you have to control your anger. A masculine voice echoed throughout his skull. I am in complete control. Izuku thought calmly before giving the mental command to his temporary appendages. What are yo, lace? My F arm. Stain screamed as the tentacle viciously tore his arm from his torso with a grotesque pop and squelch, his BLD gushing from the wound before the black whip tightened and acted as a tourniquet. For F's sake. Banjo cried as he saw his quirk used to sever a limb and then stop the bleeding. Your move, Stain. End your quirk's effect or my grip may loosen. Izuku said, pissed beyond words could accurately do justice to. Stain grunted and released his quirk, only for the tentacle to disappear completely. You said you would save me. Did I? I don't recall that. Izuku said coldly as Stain bled out in the street. What was that you said? Maybe this will make me a better hero. I know the world will be better off without you in it. No. Need to cleanse this hero SS society. Stain stuttered, BLD loss killing him as it killed so many of his victims. And who are you to decide who is a hero? Sure, the obvious ones are clear, but who the F do you think you are to decide such things? What happens when your standards get higher because you are desperately chasing the dredges of society? How long until not even all might is good enough? You don't get to decide who deserves death. Izuku said before putting his hand on the man's chest. And neither do I, Izuku said, healing him enough that he would survive and walking away, thinking furiously on how he would recover his kitten. Line break. It had been 3 days since their daughter's abduction and Kyoka's parents were fed up. They had spent the last days crying, cursing Izuku and the heroes who failed to save their daughter. Then they got clearance to enter UA and confront the guy who got her kidnapped. Look at this, guy doesn't even live in the dorms like everyone else, 𝗵𝗃 Kyoka's dad, Kyotoku, said when they were directed to the building deemed one for Hall. Just because he was named All Might's successor, he thinks he can do whatever he wants to anyone. I have no idea what All Might of all people saw in him. Mika muttered as they knocked on the door, which was answered by none other than Rumi and Rikyo. Hey, we're here for the smug prick who defiled my little girl. Kyotoku said, his arms crossed as he refused to be intimidated by the heroines. Rumi growled in disapproval, but Rikyo raised a placating hand to her. My apologies, but MSTR is not appropriate for visitors right now. Oh, let me guess, he's back there some girl right now. How long did it take for him to forget about my Kyoka? An hour? Or was he enough of a gentleman to wait until the next day before trapping a new girl in a degrading relationship? Mika spat, only to briefly glimpse death when Rumi tried to slap her and got her hand caught by Rikyo. They clearly don't understand Rumi. They have an idea of MSTR that is completely false. Rikyo said, keeping her composure and trying to do the same for her friend. Oh, coming from the Stockholm Syndrome 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Mika said, clearly too upset to be reasoned with. That's enough. You want to see him so bad. Follow me. Rikyo said, her composure cracking at the implications. The gyrus did not expect what they found on the inside. The place was dark, with nearly every light turned out and multiple girls laying around with puffy eyes. The dragon hero led them to a door that was slightly ajar and pushed it open, their jaws dropping as they saw the golden child from the news. He sat in a chair, partially facing away from them in a filthy green shirt and hunched over a glowing monitor in the corner of the room that had footage of the street on which Kyoka was abducted on loop, his green eyes with heavy bags under them scanning the computer frantically as he looked for any scrap of data that he may have missed on his previous thousands of viewings. Mr. Please. You must eat something and get rest. Please. You can't run like this indefinitely. A girl with spiky black hair said from next to him while holding a plate piled with katsudon. Food and sleep will have to wait. I have to find her. Who knows what those filthy 𝗵𝗃 have done to her? I swear if even a hair on her head is hurt, I'll slowly tear them to pieces and feed them to a pack of wolves. Or maybe slowly lower them into a solution that is 3 parts sulfuric acid and 1 part hydrogen peroxide, should dissolve their bodies so I can heal them and start all over again. Izuku said, a sick smile splitting his face as his eyes glowed with an undying hatred. Suddenly, a notification popped up on his monitor and he clicked on it, taking him to a video featuring the hand guy from the USJ. Hey hero. Just wanted to check in on you. I heard that your girlfriend went missing and wanted to offer my condolences. You probably shouldn't be thinking about how much pain she is in, just for knowing you. How she screams out your name, desperate for you to help her as the dastardly villains, tear her apart and watch her cry, slowly realizing that you let her down. I wonder how long it will take for her to give up on you. Who knows, maybe she can be my pet from now on. Anywho, I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing and go entertain a guest I have. Have fun chasing your tail, hero. Shigaraki said before he shut off the camera and the screen went dark. Mika and Kyotoku let their tears freely fall, and Izuku was tempted to join them when he noticed their presence, but then shoved that idea away. Kyoka didn't need his tears, she needed his power. She needed his wrath, and she needed his love. If only I could message her. Even just a signal to tell her it will be fine, a signal. Izuku thought, whipping out his phone and calling a number that could be his saving grace. Hello. I need something that can trace a signal ASAP. I promise to give you whatever you want, but I need it now. Izuku said rapidly, knowing how erratic May was. Just finishing it now, muscles. I'll talk about your payment later because you're in a rush. Come to the workshop and I'll have a tracking device on the machine that posted that video. May said, having started work on the device as soon as her Izuku bug made her hear the video. I wish we met under better circumstances, Mr. and Mrs. Jiro. You should know that I love your daughter and would sacrifice everything I have, even my life, if it meant she would be safe. I realize that you most likely hate me, and I will accept that, but I suggest you stay out of my way while I get her back. Izuku said with a sigh, his heartfelt speech serving to make Kyoka's parents feel even more guilty. Izuku ran past Kyoka's devastated parents and to the support courses building, sprinting into May's workshop and taking the device she held out to him. It will beep more and more the closer you get to the computer. At your speeds that shouldn't be a problem. May said as she gave his arm her standard, customary squeeze. Thanks, May. I'll be back later. Izuku called over his shoulder, running around town only a few moments before he arrived at a warehouse building. Izuku tore the thick steel door off its hinges as if it were nothing but thin paper and stormed inside, finding himself in a long corridor with a single door on the end, and one to Izuku's right. All for one patient log number 774-. The doctor was cut off when an irate Izuku Midoriya. All for one. Where is he? Izuku demanded, putting his fist through the stone plaster and steel, letting daylight into the office and revealing a strangely familiar doctor. I in the other room. He's been expecting you, young Midoriya. The doctor confessed with a healthy fear for his life. I suggest you leave, this fight will be a hard one. Izuku said, pushing the doctor away and walking towards the door and paused. What if I'm not strong enough? This will be the hardest fight of my life. Izuku steeled himself before pushing in, expecting a large warlord, capable of killing someone with a glance, but only finding an old, disfigured man on life support who seemed to even struggle with breathing. Izuku cough Midoriya. I've been expecting you, boy. The old man rasped out from his bed. All for one. Izuku asked incredulously. All of this seemed anticlimactic and underwhelming. I guess that is all you would know me as, so my actual name doesn't matter so much. Yes, although I'm not what I used to be. The legendary criminal sighed, the breathing mask over his face fogging and clearing with every breath. Where is Kyoka? Izuku demanded, forcing himself past the shock of the weakened villain. Don't worry. She is safe and sound in the room to my left. The Nomu that collected her deposited her here and my doctor made sure she was safe. She hasn't had any contact with anyone else, contrary to what was said in that horrid video that Tamura made. You can, of course, take her with you. I only had her taken to get you here, but I wonder if you would indulge in a request of mine. The villain was able to get out. What is it? Izuku asked, waiting for betrayal at any point. Let this dying fool die with someone by his side. Listen to my story and last words. Could you do that for me? All for one asked, his tone hopeful. Izuku simply stood, opened the door to Kyoka's room and lifted her off a spare hospital bed, and carried her sleeping form to a chair and sat in it. Izuku let his eyes trace her pale skin, inspecting for damage and finding none, but decided to run his quirk through her anyway. He had no idea about internal damage and he figured she could do with the comforting feelings of his power. Plus, I will indulge you, only because she is unharmed. Izuku said reluctantly, settling Kyoka in his arms. Thank you. To start, let me tell you about the day I got my quirk. I'm not writing the coughing and wheezing because that would make reading it annoying. Thank you for your understanding. When I was born, quirks were just emerging. They were relatively new and not even called quirks, but meta-abilities. We expected superheroes, but mostly got petty thieves and villains with more power than they deserved. My brother, Yoichi, and I had never even come across someone with a quirk until we were teenagers. Don't ask how old exactly, I've forgotten that long ago, but we were walking home from school and got cornered by an older classmate and his posse of goons. The classmate had a quirk that gave him the ability to create flames, not that we had ever seen him do it. His quirk was nothing strong or special, merely a drop in a lake compared to some quirks that exist today, but it had gained him popularity and fear throughout his social circles. He cornered me and my younger brother and demanded we pay him a toll for walking through his alley or he would burn us. We gave him what we had, of course, and then he laughed. He told us that we only had enough for one, and that I needed to pick which of us got burned. I chose myself immediately. I was the older brother and it was my responsibility to take the hit, but as soon as I said to burn me and let my brother go free, his goons grabbed me and faced me towards my brother as the leader approached him. I realized what he would do to my brother, so I shook his goons off of me and ran at him, tackling him and wrapping my hands around his throat as I tried to protect my brother. That's when I noticed an intangible thing inside of him. Sorry, it is hard to explain what quirks look like. I mentally pulled on it and found that it came with no resistance, shooting from him to me. It was then that he tried to use his quirk and had a look of shock on his face when nothing happened. I would rather not mention what I did to him in my anger, but by the time I was done his gang belonged to me and I vowed that I would never let harm befall me or my brother. I was banished from my house, tossed out by my parents for being a freak, and my brother followed me to my new gang's favorite hangout, an old warehouse that actually used to stand in this very location. Call me sentimental, but I thought it would be poetic for the end of my influence to be in the same place as when my power was born. It was then that I proclaimed that I was all for one, and only my brother could call me otherwise. I began to spread my influence, destroying gangs and taking their members until I owned everyone and everything. I would take quirks with reckless abandon, but planned carefully. I even lent powerful quirks to my agents, such as a teleporting quirk to a man who took a fall for me so he could escape prison. Then I would take it back and use a quirk to change his features so he wouldn't get caught again, that is, until I owned every judge and jury. But my brother did not see it as necessary measures to make us untouchable, but as me going mad with power, and in hindsight, he was right. By the time we were grown, I was so desperate to get him to love and idolize me again that I forced him to take a powerful quirk, and thus One for All was born. He ran from me and joined a resistance movement against my power, only to die with them eventually. I mourned my brother, but then found out about his dormant quirk. He had given his power to some child and its power grew exponentially, with the boy obtaining triple the strength of my beloved brother. I was furious. That was the last thing that connected me to my brother, and it was in the hands of some pitiful nobody. I became fixated on recovering my brother's quirk at all costs, and chased the users to the ends of the earth. I spent so many years in control as I tried to take back One for All, and killed countless people in my attempts, until I killed one 𝗓𝗓𝗓, who was the 7th holder of your quirk. She passed it to a young, quirkless, little scrap of a thing who later would make his debut in America while I worked to control Japan. While he was gone, I walked through my domain. I did this often, as all who had known my face were long dead, but this time I happened upon a woman who grabbed the last apple in a stall that I had my hand on. I used to have quite the build, and I towered over her, but she refused to budge. Mister, can you let go of the apple? I need it for a pie, but if you let me have it, I'll bring you a piece when it's done. The woman asked with a bright, warm smile. 𝗧𝗧, I don't want pie. Take your fruit. I spat, hoping to push this sunny person away, but only managing to make her smile brighter. If you say so, tough guy. I'm going to bring the whole thing back here, and if an anonymous stranger who gave me an apple was still here, I'm going to share it with them," she said, turning and walking away, presumably to her home for her culinary activities. I have no idea why I waited there, no idea why I felt the corners of my lips tug upwards when she waved to me, a picnic basket hanging off her other arm, and absolutely no idea why I went with her to a park to enjoy the food she prepared. She asked my name, I gave it, my brother was the last person who could connect it to all for one anyway. She told me about her quirk and asked me about mine. I lied and named one of the many quirks I had stored, and we watched the sunset together. I began to see more and more of the woman, going to movies and cafes and trying not to let her thaw my frozen heart, only to fail completely. I proposed and married her, and that was the happiest I had been since Yoichi died. I lived happily with her and fathered my firstborn child. I knew that our child would most likely be quirkless due to my genetic material being of a time when quirks were uncommon, or their quirk would take after their mother's, with a minuscule chance that it would take after mine. It turned out to be the second one. I looked at my first son's quirk when he was handed to me just after 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏, and he had a quirk much like his mother's, that grew with his emotional state. I took it from him. Emotional-based quirks are dangerous during development, and gave it to his mother without her knowledge for safekeeping. I lived with my beloved family until I was informed that the 8th user of my brother's quirk had returned to Japan and wanted my head for what I did to his mentor. I told my wife that I would be gone for business for an indefinite amount of time, and that if it ran longer than expected I would remember to keep in touch, pat my son on the head, and left for battle. I lost. I lost my empire, I lost my strength and longevity, and because of my disfigurement, I lost my family. I was furious. I had found my peace and he came to take it away. My wife raised my son alone, and my son grew up quirkless. I used my doctor to keep them healthy, sent them funds to provide for them and letters to talk with them, and watched them from afar as I pieced my body and my influence back together. Everything changed when my wife was attacked. I still had a quirk that stopped time, but it would only hasten my demise, so I hesitated, only for my son to charge in to defend her. I saw myself reflected in my scrawny progeny and I was once again back in that fateful alleyway. He didn't have a prayer against the criminal, but he fought anyway to protect his family. Instead of interfering directly, I did what I should have done long ago and gave my son a quirk. I now had a new reason to get one for all. My son would be able to use it like no one had before and would protect my wife when I was gone, so I continued my efforts when All Might eventually announced a successor, 𝗬𝗓𝗏. Knowing where my brother's legacy was, I launched an attack to get it for my son, only to have my weapon destroyed and my forces to return with their tails between their legs at the thrashing they received from a mere teenager. That's when I learned your name and changed my plans. 𝗓𝗏 said, explaining his backstory to the young man who was cradling his girlfriend on his lap. Tell me your name. Izuku demanded, his mind connecting dots. I already said, it is an impo dash, 𝗓𝗏 said, only to be cut off. Tell me. No. Izuku said, his theory becoming solidified even more. My name is Hisashi Midoriya. I am your father, Izuku. The elder Midoriya said with a defeated sigh. The uncomfortable silence stretched between them before Hisashi had a violent coughing fit, stronger than any before it. So, Izuku, I know you hate me and you are right too, but my time draws near. Please, let me hold your hand in mine. Please indulge this as my final wish. The father said, stretching his hand to his son. I could never hate you. You were a monster, but you tried to change. I have every letter you ever sent me and every All Might figure you sent, even if you hated him. You never stopped being my dad just because you stopped being around. Izuku said in a broken voice, tears streaming out of his eyes as he placed his hand in his father's. Thank you, my son. Thank you. Even if I'm not quite gone yet, I think it is time you got your inheritance. 𝗓𝗏 rasped, squeezing Izuku's hand with what strength he had left. What do you mean? Izuku asked, not following what his father was saying. I just gave you my quirk, son. You now have the power of both all for one and one for all. I wish I had more to give you, but I know you will wield your power much better than I did. Hisashi said, his voice weak. I don't know what to say. Izuku said, do you want to say goodbye to Mom? I could get you to her. I want that more than you could imagine, But it's better this way. Let her remember the husband I was to her, not the man I was to the world. Hisashi said, his hand falling out of Izuku's as his arm grew weak. You could do one thing for me, however. What? Tell me. Izuku said, picking his father's limp hand back up. I made quite the mess that I won't get to clean up. The computer over there has all of the information on the League of Villains. Stop them for me, Izuku. I have done great harm in my life, but please, help me to not be responsible for any more. He said, his voice barely a whisper as he quietly passed. Plus, I will, father. I will. Izuku sobbed, knowing his father was gone. Kyoka woke up in strong arms, her 𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗏 scent wafting over her, invading her senses and putting her at ease. Izuku's breathing was even as he listened to a sick man cough and wheeze while talking about a woman in a market. She decided she wouldn't interrupt them and would just enjoy being back with the man she loved, saving her questions until they were alone. She didn't even know who the man was until he talked about the USJ event and the role he played in it. She was shocked beyond words when she found out that the legendary villain was Izuku's father, and even more so when she heard that he received the man's quirk somehow. Kyoka realized he was crying, vowing to destroy the League of Villains, and immediately began to move, wrapping her slender arms around his neck and letting him cry on her shoulder. Eventually, his sobs grew softer and his breathing returned to normal as he gained control of his emotions. He pulled away from her shoulder to look at her, and she let out a gasp upon seeing his eyes. His green irises had gained a ring around them that was a deep, royal purple color, and where Izuku's green eyes glowed when he activated his quirk, the ring around his iris glowed passively with a dim purple. Why, your eyes are even prettier, Kyoka muttered, looking intently into his eyes. Why did your eyes change? I didn't know they did change, but it was probably because of my dad's quirk. Izuku said, grimacing when he realized that he had soaked her shoulder with his tears. His quirk is to make your eyes purple. Kyoka asked with a raised eyebrow. It's, okay, I'm just going to show you. Izuku said before focusing on Kyoka and noticed what had to be a quirk. He immediately knew everything about it, everything it could do with a single glance. He willed it to him and came with no resistance, and watched Kyoka's jacks recede into her ears. Kyoka noticed her hearing dim, like someone had sucked all the sound out of the area, and realized she lost the familiar weight of her jacks that hung off her ears. What just happened? Kyoka yelled, unused to her hearing being that of a normal person, only for Izuku to grasp his ears and let out a cry of pain. It was then that Kyoka saw his ears and realized what he had done. Can you give it 𝗵𝗃? Kyoka shouted before her mouth was covered by Izuku, and she realized she was shouting at someone who wasn't used to enhanced hearing. When she was born, every little breath was excruciating to her, but over time she got used to it. Izuku gave her the quirk back and sighed in relief when his hearing diminished back to its original state. So you can take quirks? Even mutant quirks? What are the drawbacks? Kyoka asked, holding his hand in both of hers as they sat in a chair in an abandoned warehouse. There are none. I can permanently take the quirk of anyone I come in physical contact with. I can give the quirks to others too. Izuku explained, stroking her head with his free hand and enjoying the purr-like sounds she released. That's a lot to take in. You could get so much stronger than you already are. Kyoka said before he picked her up with him as he stood. Yeah, I know. Let's get out of here. Can you carry that for me? Izuku asked, nodding at the purple and black laptop that sat on a table. Yes, Kyoka said, picking it up and holding it to her chest as he did the same to her. Izuku charged his quirk throughout his body, only to find that his familiar green lightning was now partially green and partially purple. That's new. I wonder what else changed. Izuku mused before dashing off with his pet in his arms and his energy coursing through his veins. He appeared in Mei's workshop and set Kyoka down on a stool, kissing her gently before letting go of her and turning to Mei. Okay, oh psychotic steampunk girl, I am at your mercy. Izuku said, dramatically spreading his arms, only to get what looked suspiciously like a high-tech collar placed in his hands and a metal bracelet around his wrist. Great. Put this on me and say, activate obedience training. Mei said, gathering her pink hair up and off her neck. You're joking, right? Izuku said, not liking where this was going. Not in the slightest. Now, put the collar on me and say the activation phrase. Mei said, looking impatient. Why can't you say it? Izuku asked, fastening the collar on. Because it's keyed to your voice, obviously. Mei said as if nothing made more sense in the whole world. Activate obedience training. Izuku said, blushing while Kyoka watched in amusement. 𝗵𝗃𝗲. A recording of Mei's voice from the collar, only serving to make Izuku blush harder. Great. Can I go change into my costume now? Mei asked him. I'm not in charge of you. Izuku pointed out. Yet. Kyoka snickered from her stool. Well, you have to give me verbal permission to get out of a certain range. I call it my invisible leash. Mei said proudly before putting her hands behind her back to push her chest out and pouting shyly. Can I go get my cute costume on for you? Fine, why not Mei too? Of course Mei too, why would I expect anything different? Izuku sighed as he waved her off. Mei ran into a closet and Kyoka heard shuffles and movement for a bit before Mei emerged from it in an interesting outfit. She had a raccoon tail plug-in and some small ears on her head as she crawled out and handed Izuku a sheet of paper. Obedience training collar commands to test. Bad girl, back-talking disobedience running off without permission aggressive behavior. I have a bad feeling about this. Bad girl. Izuku said, and the effect was immediate. Mei's body tensed as her collar electrocuted her, only for the collar to tighten around her neck and cut it off. Good girl. Good girl, Izuku shouted, rushing to Mei's side. That was great. You don't have to worry, 𝗧𝗏. I put safety protocols in and I was enjoying the pain. Now, on to back-talking and disobedience. Tell me to do something like sit at your feet. Mei said, standing a couple of feet away from him. Mei, come sit at my feet, I guess. Izuku said, not sure about this. No, you're not the boss of me. Mei said, imitating the brattiest voice she could, only to get choked and shocked by her collar. Ooh yeah, that's the stuff. If you want to get shocked, why not just shock yourself? Izuku asked, wondering the same sort of thing that he wondered about Mina. It's not the same, now let's try running off. I need you to stay here, and we'll see how far I get. Mei said, far more excited than Izuku would understand. Mei began walking away, only to have the familiar buzz of electricity sound through the air as she got shocked, enjoying it way too much. Izuku walked over to her, cutting off her shock and her lustful moans. Now we just need to try aggressive behavior. Mei said before letting out a growl, only to yelp as she was shocked much harder than the other things. It's perfect. Now I can be your little raccoon. She said, crawling over to Izuku and looking up at him with her chin brushing his pee-pee over his pants. Can I have a head pat? I didn't program the collar for positive reinforcement, so that will have to be administered manually. Mei said, her yellow eyes locked on his green and purple ones. After all that naughty behavior? I don't think so. I think you need to be shown your place first, bad girl. Izuku said, grinning at her of pleasure and pain. He selected a short chain she had lying around and hooked it to her collar. Come Mei. I'm going to walk your naughty butt to my place and chain you up so you can't do anything but watch me pamper my pretty kitty. Who knows? Maybe I'll give the command for you to get shocked so you can get off at least a little, you depraved little lunatic. Izuku said, lifting Kyoka, who still had his laptop, and tugging on the chain fixed to his new pet. Wait, you're going to take me out there to be degraded in front of all my classmates, teachers and anyone else who looks. Mei said in a meek and shy voice. Is that a problem for you? Izuku asked, wondering if maybe he took it too far. Are you kidding? You could walk me in the streets and I'd just get turned on. I'm your dirty, crazy little raccoon. Degrade away. Mei said, excitement shining in her eyes. Izuku shrugged and began to walk with Kyoka held by one of his arms and Mei scampering behind him, on his heels as he walked. Unfortunately for Mei, only a few people were around, so only a couple pointed and whispered or laughed at her, but she enjoyed the slight amount of humiliation that she got. When they got to one for hall, Izuku opened the doors and froze. Kyotoku and Miko were sitting and drinking tea with his pets and watching TV. Hey, we're back. Izuku said awkwardly. Izuku was suddenly tackled by every one of his pets, aside from the ones he was holding, and was barely able to keep the enthusiastic girls from crushing him and Kyoka. Okay. Get off already, I'll explain everything. Izuku said, getting to his feet and seeing Kyoka's parents staring awkwardly. We, said some things that were unfair. We're sorry. Kyoto said, looking away dejectedly. Kyoka moved to go to them, only for Izuku's arms to moderately tighten around her. I'll be fine, my parents deserve to know I'm okay too. She murmured, pressing her lips against his jawbone. Izuku reluctantly let her go, only for Himiko to peer at him intensely. Mina, come look at his eyes. You went through another power boost, didn't you? What's changed now? Let me guess, you are suddenly strong enough to make All Might in his prime look like an angry 3-year-old. Himiko said, only to be joined by Mina. Yeah. You have purple in your eye now. We can't turn our backs for 3 seconds without you getting dramatically more overpowered, can we? Mina joked, her black and gold eyes focused on his. I'll explain everything later, but I just got my kitten back, so first I'm going to spend the rest of the night with her. Izuku said, seeing Mika and Kyoto hugging their daughter. I know what you're thinking. Yes, we should have babies immediately. Rumi whispered in his ear. What? You want my baby? Izuku asked, trying not to fall in love with the idea of seeing a combination of them resting on her hip. No. I want a whole DMN litter. Let me know when you're in. Rumi said, nuzzling his neck. I'll think about it. Izuku promised. Oh. What part are you going to think about? Your thick cum leaking out of my little pages. Me carrying your powerful babies. Holding me while I feed them. Rumi asked, putting positive images of having kids into his brain. No comment. Izuku said, grabbing her soft ear and nipping the tip of it to tease her. Kyoka. I'll be in the bedroom when you finish with your parents. Izuku said, walking into his bedroom with Mei trailing behind him. So, you're gonna chain me up and play with me while we wait, right? She asked excitedly, her crosshair eyes fixated on the outline of his pee-pee in his pants. I was going to take a nap. I technically haven't slept for a few days. Izuku said sheepishly. That's all. I haven't slept in a week and I'm fine. You're going to make me take a nap now, aren't you? Mei said, her shoulders slumping. Get into bed, pet. Izuku said, laying down himself. Mei cuddled into Izuku's side and grumbled something about him spoiling her fun. Line break. Kyoka walked in and saw Izuku passed out on the bed, with Mei fiddling with his computer and seeming frustrated. What are you doing, Mei? Kyoka asked, laying on his shoulder and smiling softly at his exhausted state. Well, I was going to run the Super Suit program on MSDR's new laptop so I could perfect it before he woke up, but his computer is locked. Who is the light of his life? That is the hint. Mei grumbled, having tried every name she knew, not that there were many. That was his dad's computer. Try Inko. Kyoka suggested. Hey, it worked. Lots of processing power in this bad boy, must be custom made. It's practically a supercomputer. Mei said excitedly, her hand flying over the keyboard as she installed the program. Okay, I'm going to get some sleep and let you do that. Kyoka said, laying on top of him and letting herself drift off. The last thing she or Izuku heard that night were the excited clattering of keys, the result of giving a supercomputer to a workaholic tech junkie.